military, law enforcement, and first responder communities were amongst the earliest proponents of CrossFit. Their intensity, matched with the fitness CrossFit provides, is a match made in heaven. When a service member dies in the line of duty, a CrossFit hero workout is created in their name. Hero WODs are an opportunity to reflect on the sacrifices of the fallen, to speak their names and honor their memory.
When you're feeling pain during the workout, it's nothing compared to how this person felt or how this person's family felt. That kind of puts it in perspective, like this pain doesn't hurt that badly.
These workouts have been a tradition of CrossFit gyms since 2008, and the quintessential hero workout is Murph. It is revered as one of the toughest, most iconic challenges in CrossFit, a tribute to its legendary namesake, Lieutenant Michael Murphy. Last year, Murph made its debut at the CrossFit Games and was unanimously regarded as the linchpin event of the competition.
Very rough, but awesome. I mean, that's what we come here to do, right? Test ourselves like that.
This year, Murph is back with a new format. In CrossFit events, looks can be deceiving, and different does not mean easier. Because no matter how you slice it, 600 reps is 600 reps. 2 miles is 2 miles. Weight vests are unforgiving, and Murph is a giant.
Murph, it celebrates an American hero, but you can bet that the 40 women here in Carson were not celebrating when they found out that this iconic workout was going to be part of the CrossFit Games for the second straight year. It is the 5th event. We still don't know how many remain, but we do know on Sunday it's all going to be over, and we will crown the fittest woman on earth. Tia Claire Toomey is your overall leader. 2 former champions also in the top 5. That's Samantha Briggs in 3rd, Annie Thorisdottir in 5th, and then a rookie in 2nd place. That's Tanil Reed. Welcome inside the StubHub Center in Carson, California. I'm Sean Woodland alongside 2009 CrossFit Games champion Tanya Wagner and Bill Grundler. And last year, this event took its toll on many women, most notably Annie Thorisdottir, who went on to have her worst ever career overall finish at the CrossFit Games. She finished 38th, and a big reason, this event right here.
This is the event that wreaked havoc on Annie. She actually could never quite bounce back from its effects and eventually ended up withdrawing from competition because of it. These are pictures we've never seen in all the years of Annie competing in all the events, just so uncharacteristic. But I can tell you, it will not happen this year. It will not happen today. She has done everything in her power to combat the heat and be ready for redemption with Murph.
Many of these athletes have been through this event once before. That was last year, and they know how to handle it this year. Going to be a little bit of a different format. We'll get into that in a second here, but what are the lessons that they now take in to 2016?
Well, for these guys, it isn't about learning the movements, it's about learning to battle the elements, and that it was the heat and being able to be acclimated to the heat and the humidity. So we had athletes that were coming in way early this year, training in places like Las Vegas, people from the other side of the world having to come over just to get used to that. So they got to prepare for Carson and the heat and the humidity in the stadium. And that's the biggest lesson learned.
A whole lot of work is going to be done with Murph. 2 total miles of running, and then a bunch of pull-ups, push-ups, and air squats. They will begin and end with a 1-mile run, and then 5 rounds of those 3 movements. A little bit different than what we saw last year as far as the format is concerned. And for more on that, let's send it down to Rory McKernan.
If you watched the Murph event last year, you'll notice that the field has been flipped-flopped. Now athletes will travel from south to north to leave on the run. They will return from north behind me to south. After taking on the pull-ups at the rig, you'll notice where they'll do their pull-ups and push-ups on these round markers. Remember, it's 5 rounds of 20, 40, 60. Round 1 there, round 2 here, and so on. The athlete on round 5 is about to leave for their second run.
Thank you, Ro. And Samantha Briggs in the middle of your screen, the 2013 Reebok CrossFit Games champion. Right next to her is Camila Blanc-Bazinet. She's the 2014 champ. The 2016 Reebok CrossFit Games version of Murph is underway. We mentioned Samantha Briggs right before they started here. She is the woman that won this event in 2015, and 2 champions out front. That's Katrin Davidsdottir, who won last year, and Annie Thorisdottir, who is the only woman to win 2 CrossFit Games championships.
Annie Thorsdottir is the one who I'm going to watch to see, you know, guys, what is she doing this year? How is she going to attack this? It was something last year that we had never seen, and we were just a little bit, you know, anxious when we heard Murph came back up, just to see how her and Cara Webb both will attack this. And I have to wonder, mentally, will they go out too slow? I don't think that's the case, seeing how hard she charged right out of the gates.
Wow, you know, the way I saw these guys was they were racing. These women were racing for the stairs. And I understand you don't want to get caught behind someone, but we have a long event. So I don't necessarily know if that was something that they needed to do, unless it was more of a mental thing. Like, I want to get into this game and I want to attack Murph.
Last year, before Murph went down, Dave Castro huddled everyone together. It was something that they've never had happen before at the games. He gave them a little pep talk about Murph, and Cara Webb actually spoke about it and said that's what got her so jacked up, so pumped up, you know, hearing that speech and really doing this as a memorial type of event. Probably almost forgetting a little bit that they had a full competition ahead of them. But today, you know, getting out from the stairs is one thing, but how they attack this first mile here on the road, I really hope a lot of people did their homework, learned their lesson from last year.
Candace Wagner is out front early. The temperature right now, 70 degrees. And another thing that's different this year as opposed to last year, the individual athletes did this event in the middle of the afternoon when it was the hottest. We've moved it to the morning now. The temperatures are a little bit cooler, and it's Candace Wagner who is out front. But the lack of scorching heat right now is going to make a big difference.
Definitely is going to help. Right here, Jen Smith is walking. She had some issues in a row miss on Wednesday with her ankle, and so we're glad to see she's still in competition, but there's only so much she can do. She wants to push as hard as she can. It's her first time as an individual here at the games.
Jen Smith still in the competition. She hurt her foot during that 7K trail run. It was basically on the very first loop. She came limping back after that initial loop on the paved segment and was unable to complete that event. But it's the former Marine, Candace Wagner, who's on the left of your screen. Jen Smith is on the right. Wagner served 5 years in the U.S. Marine Corps, where she achieved the rank of sergeant. She has been to the games 2 other times. Her best finish was in 2010 when she finished 17th overall.
Running is definitely one of her strengths, and so maybe her strategy here is to get out early, to use those 2 miles in this event to get ahead of the rest of the field. But we saw last year, when you do go out too hard, typically it's not a lead you can keep in an event so long like Murph.
Sean, as Jen Smith was walking by, she was in tears. I saw her in the lobby of the hotel this morning. She's having trouble with plantar fascia. She thought that she'd be able to do Murph slow today, but she said it hurts worse than it even did yesterday. Also, keep your eyes on China Cho. She was the back of the pack leaving at Aromas. She said she had a little bit of an ankle issue. She had turned it on the trail run, so keep your eyes on those athletes.
Initial 1 mile run, a little bit different than we saw last year in 2015. And then after they complete this, it's back inside the soccer stadium here at the StubHub Center, where they will do 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, and 300 air squats. But it's partitioned differently this year. Candace Wagner has made the turn and is heading back for that, but the way that it's set up, that's going to have an effect on how they attack it.
Yeah, when you have to do 100 pull-ups straight, you can get to a certain point and then you're worried about, like, okay, what kind of small manageable numbers am I able to use? And you're having to deal with that full just blasting of those muscles all the way through. With this partition set up, you actually get to let those muscles recover. So these athletes are going to feel a little bit better. They're going to feel a little bit fresher when they get up on the bar. They're going to be able to take bigger chunks of these movements, and it's going to actually allow them to move quicker through this event. So they should be that paired on top of the fact that it's a little cooler, a little nicer today, that the sun's not beating down on them as hard. I think we should see some faster times than last year.
I totally agree with you. The only thing you have to remember, though, is those athletes that don't have the lung capacity as well, they're going to be going a little faster. So when you partition it this way, you do get more of that lung effect where you can only go so fast on 200 push-ups. So you're slowing down. Your heart rate will slow down a little bit more muscle fatigue when you do them straight, all in one big set.
But there's also the mental part of that as well. You know, when you only have to do X amount, it's an easier hurdle to get to. And then that's going to kind of drive you along through those 5 rounds.
Sure.
Candace Wagner is your leader. Behind her is Anna Tunnicliffe, and then it's Sam Briggs in third. Katrin Davidsdottir currently sits in 4th place. Kristen Holta is behind her. And now Anna Tunnicliffe is passing Candice Wagner for the lead, and Sam Briggs also gaining ground as well.
Another element that's a little different this year is these athletes, this is their 3rd day of competition. Last year they only had the swim. It was a paddleboard swim. It was long. There was some fatigue, but these athletes have already been through 4 events, and now they're going into Murph. That's definitely different. Their legs have already been through the ringer with Wednesday, with the trail run, with the heavy deadlifts, the sprint. So I'm anxious to see too if we see any just signs of that, and when we're going to see that.
And I think that we will see some of that. I mean, this is a lot of just running, a lot more running than these athletes have done in a competition setting like this for the games. You know, it used to be if you had the one long run, then that was it. Then it was Murph, and that was it. Now we have both put together. And again, like you said, this is their 5th event. You know, so yeah, we're gonna see the effects for sure.
And I know when Murph was first announced, there was different people out there saying, can't believe they're bringing it back. I was celebrating. I'm so excited always when you get to see the level of fitness improve, and when they retest and repeat, we are going to see different numbers. Yes, it's partitioned differently, but I'm really anxious to see the athletes that did well, like Sam Briggs last year. Sarah Sigmundsdottir, who was a rookie, how well they performed last year, and now coming back saying, hey, it didn't affect me last year. I was strong, I was good to go, and now I get to do it again. Already done that, check, I can do it.
The top 3 women are making their way into the soccer stadium, as is Katrin Davidsdottir, who sits in 4th. More and more women now into the soccer stadium, and they will start that descent onto the field. Well, they will begin 5 rounds of pull-ups, push-ups, and air squats.
The women are re-entering through the northwest corner. That's the way that they went out. The original course had them coming in through the northeast, but due to the early morning dew that's still on the field and the ramps, it was extremely slippery. Still, that ramp down to the field is pretty slippery, so watch the athletes being careful. I also just talked to Anna Tunnicliffe's coach. Watch for her to go 12 and 8 on the first 2 sets of pull-ups with a kipping pull, with a butterfly kip, before going back to a standard kipping pull-up.
Thanks, Rose. Samantha Briggs and Anna Tunnicliffe, the first 2 women in, as the rest of the field is getting set to join them. Samantha Briggs won this event last year en route to finishing 4th overall. It was her best finish since 2013 when she won the whole thing. And here's Anna Tunnicliffe, who, as you heard Rose say, plans on breaking up these pull-ups in the sets of 12 and 8. On the left is Candice Wagner. No lane assignments here. It's basically first come, first serve for the athletes.
Anna Tunnicliffe is one of those athletes that just does so well in the longer events. She did this one last year, so another year under her belt.
Samantha Briggs is done with her first set of 20. And now it is on to her push-ups.
There you go.
Getting a no rep from her judge. Didn't look like she locked it out the whole way. Arms need to be extended at the top, and that body armor or weight vest that weighs 14 pounds needs to hit the ground in order for the rep to count. Approaching the 9-minute mark here of the 2016 version of Murph.
It looked like as if she almost thought she was done and then had to go back for about 4 more. Sam Briggs just having a great start to this year's games. This is her 5th time to the games. This woman has placed no lower than 19th place back in her first rookie season in 2011 to 4th. Last year 4th, in 2013 1st. It's just an incredible resume when you look at her games experience and then where she places, because she had a lot of holes in her game years ago to still be placing that high in the ranking and ending up as well as she did. This year she's announced this is her final games. This is the last year. We're only gonna see the top and the best from Sam Briggs this year. We already are.
And Samantha Briggs is currently your leader and on to her first round of 60 air squats. Sarah Sigmundsdottir, who comes in 4th place overall, just 4 points behind Samantha Briggs. Had an outstanding performance at the regional. We saw her battle head-to-head with Annie Thorisdottir there. We knew that was going to continue going into the 2016 Reebok CrossFit Games. Carlene Matthews is on the left of your screen, and Chrissy Aramo, the rookie, is on the right. Annie Thorisdottir moving up to join Samantha Briggs on the air squats, and Sandra Pacelli, who's in that blue shirt next to Briggs. Thorsdottir currently sits in 5th place overall, and if she can come up with a top 10 finish in this event, look out, because a healthy Annie is a dangerous Annie at the CrossFit Games.
Not only physically, but then mentally, to be able to attack this, if she can get through it and defeat this kind of demon that was haunting her over the past year, making her withdraw from last year's game, that would be huge for the rest of the competition mentally for her.
And last year, Annie Thorsdottir said she felt pretty good through the pull-ups and into the push-ups. It is where the air squats she really started to feel it.
Well, and if you look at her squat right now, that's not a very pretty squat for Annie Thorsdottir. I mean, she's already leaning way forward, and that's going to show a lot of taxing on her back as we get into the further reps. Or the further rounds. I mean, if I was her, I'd go a little bit wider with that stance, try to keep that chest up and try to breathe a little bit more. Just like she's struggling already in round 1.
The body armor, though, 14 pounds, so that does make it does play a factor. She obviously is used to that. She
Right.
trains with that, so it's not like that's something new, but you know, it is a different element here in competition, and this is, like we said, the 4th event. She pushed it in Aroma. She pushed it on the hill sprint.
Jen Smith continues to walk. There is a 55-minute time cap for this event, and it's very likely that Jen Smith will not be making that, but the thing for her, this is a matter of pride as she remains in the competition after injuring her foot on day 1 of competition. That happened on Wednesday in Aromas on the 7K trail run. Samantha Briggs has just closed out her second round of 20 pull-ups and now second round of 40 push-ups for the woman who comes in with 8 career event wins at the CrossFit Games, and that includes what she did on Wednesday in Aromas in the 7K trail run.
And the 7K trail run, no surprise how well she plays there. The biggest surprise for me so far has been how well she did in that deadlift ladder, taking 5th place in the deadlift ladder in one of the strength components. Those are the events in previous year's games where she has done poorly and has pulled her down and made her not take a podium spot.
Sarah Sigmundsdottir is working through her set of push-ups and keeping up a pretty frantic pace on those. Sigmundsdottir, one of the athletes who came over early, has quite a contingency of fans in the stands here from her native Iceland. She was training in Northern California in Stockton to get used to the heat. Katrin Davidsdottir, your defending champion, trying to work her way into the top 5 in event number 5.
Katrin, in that first mile run, she was all smiles running. She was looking forward to she wanted a more challenging, more difficult games this year. She spoke to us earlier about and just said, you know, the more crazy, the better. She got some of that with the surprise trip to Carson, or to Aromas on Wednesday. And I wonder what her thoughts were on Murph seeing that long event. She wants a challenge. Well, here it is again for you, knowing that some of the other ladies have trained and they're going to make a push for it.
Davidsdottir has moved on to the air squats. About 5-6 athletes on that second round of air squats, but Sam Briggs continues to lead just like she did in 2015 when she won this event.
Look at her composure. She just looks so, you know, opposite of Annie's squat, Bill, how you were saying about Annie's squat. Look at Sam, and Sam has never been known for her prettiness, her beauty in her squat. Sorry, Sam, it's gotten a lot better. It really has, and you look great. She's so fun to watch. It's just so tenacious. Well, this is the scary thing. Look at Sarah Sigmundsdottir here. Look at the pain on her face. You can already see the toll that Murph is taking on Sarah, and that's what's so freakishly incredible about Sam Briggs is she looks like it's a stroll in the park. Yeah. Now, you know, with the hands up on her head, she's just trying to be able to catch her breath. I mean, again, we're so early in these rounds. We have a lot more to go yet. It's not about trying to crush themselves through. You know, one of these things I don't really see. Actually, if you look just to the left, Colleen Matthews is sort of doing it. Using their arms out of the bottom to help lift themselves up. They can actually throw their arms up in the air, you know, to get a little bit of momentum out of the hole. Especially when you have a 14-pound vest on, especially with that extra weight pulling you down. You want to use every advantage you can to help you get up.
Kari Pearce, who was a rookie last year at the Games, making her second straight trip to the CrossFit Games. Last year, she got here to Carson after having only done CrossFit for about 6 months. That's how talented that young woman is. But that's your leader, Samantha Briggs, now on to round number 3.
Wow, Samantha's still going with those large sets of pull-ups. That's amazing. I love watching her on these long events. She never shows any sign of fatigue or of any sort of like stress or you know, trouble. She just grinds. It's amazing.
Always staying relaxed.
And speaking of grinding, that's exactly what Jen Smith is doing, just trying to work her way down the steps and join her fellow competitors at the rig known as Zeus, so she can get as good a score as possible and keep herself in the 2016 Reebok CrossFit Games. We saw this last year with Samantha Briggs with her push-up. She varies her grip, and she varies where she puts her hands quite a bit throughout these sets.
Yeah, it's super smart. Again, the movements are partitioned. And if you do that again, it's like you're repartitioning them again, or repartitioning them again. So you're not tiring out the exact same muscles the entire time. Move them around, do a little bit of chest on this one, a little bit of tricep on this one, a little bit more shoulder on this one.
That's working for her so far. Samantha Briggs continues to lead here. She took the lead on the last part of the initial 1 mile run. Candace Wagner, the former Marine, went out hot early. Hannah Tunnicliffe and Samantha Briggs were able to track her down, and now Samantha Briggs is all by herself in the lead. She is on her 3rd round of 40 push-ups.
Anything with upper body is just where Sam just kind of takes off to. We say about the endurance, but really her upper body, after she had the fractured patella back in 2012, it kept her out of the game season that year. We really saw when she came back, she had done a lot of upper body, and so it really has showed she's kept that strength. Fractured her foot last year, so it seems like she bangs up the lower half of her body, but she keeps on strengthening the top part. We see her do, you know, muscle-ups with vests and weighted muscle-ups. Just volumes and volumes. So pull-ups with a 14-pound vest, no problem for her.
Well, last year, Samantha Briggs did this event in 39 minutes, 10.1 seconds. And that was going straight through. So all 100 pull-ups, all 200 push-ups, and all 300 air squats in a row. The overall leader is Tia Toomey, and this was an event last year where she did not do that well. She finished 27th, 52 minutes, 44.8 seconds. If she can survive this, it's likely that she will keep herself in the top 3, but if she has a similar result as she did last year, she could find herself on the outside looking in when it comes to a podium spot. But still, plenty of events left. We don't know how many, but we do know we have all day today, Saturday and Sunday. Toomey finished 27th. Briggs, of course, won it. The Sigmund's daughter would be very happy with a similar result there. Annie Thor's daughter had problems with the heat, trying to improve on her performance. And Sandra Pacelli, who currently sits in 6th place, needs a better mark there to keep herself in the upper part of the leaderboard.
Pacelli's having a great start so far in her role, missing with a long distance run in swim, so she's sitting at the top of the leaderboard, which is nice, but she has her work cut out if she didn't make improvements from last year in her training for this year's Murph.
The winner of this event will get 100 points. 2nd place gets 94, 3rd gets 88, and then the worse you finish, the fewer points you receive. The last place finisher receives no points. But Samantha Briggs is trying to put some distance between herself and the women she is chasing, most notably the rookie Tennille Reed and Tia Toomey. Meanwhile, Cara Webb is another woman who last year had a ton of problems with the heat, suffered heat exhaustion, passed out at the end of the event, but she is making a move on Samantha Briggs. Cara Webb clearly learned her lesson last year.
Very smart athlete. She loves the typical grunt work, the CrossFit style workouts, nothing too crazy and fancy. And so she was disappointed last year that she doesn't even remember that final mile run. She said she just totally went out too hard. Like I mentioned, Dave Castro gave a little pep talk. Her coach made her watch the movie that was dedicated to Murph the night before, Lone Survivor. So this year it was a little different strategy. They weren't going to give her the push. She definitely doesn't need the extra adrenaline. Wise athlete, and she definitely was very smart holding back a little bit.
Kara Webb currently sits in 12th place overall, and a finish towards the top of this event would certainly help her cause to get herself onto the podium for the first time in her career. And despite all the difficulties that Kara Webb had last year, Samantha Briggs is closing out her third round of pull-ups, or fourth round now. But Kara Webb still finished 5th overall.
That was what was so impressive. You know, it knocked Annie Thorsdottir out of competition.
Okay.
She took the bottom of the pack. But for Webb, yeah, still taking 5th, even despite her condition. So, you know, if she can keep herself in it mentally, obviously, that last run is going to be that much better than last year.
And Kara Webb is now threatening Samantha Briggs for the lead. Webb is on the right, Briggs is on the left, and both of them are on their 4th round of 20 push-ups. Sorry, 20 pull-ups, 40 push-ups, and 60 air squats.
Kara is so quick with those push-ups. Her sets are few, but they're fast, and that's really important just to minimize that time under tension with that weight vest. Just short, quick sets, really smart way to go.
I mentioned at the top of the show here that a lot of women were not happy when this event was announced for the 2nd straight year. You would think Kara Webb would have been one of them, but she wasn't. She wanted another crack at this thing, and she is chasing Samantha Briggs in the middle of your screen, who was the leader, now gets hit with a no rep, and Briggs looks like she's tiring a bit.
A little bit more for sure than we're used to seeing or than we've seen so far. But you know, with Kara Webb, it's not that she's just competing against the other athletes. Kara Webb truly is a true competitor. She competes against herself, and it ticked her off last year what happened. And so, I mean, she had the effects from Murph going into other events. She is a fighter, and if there's one thing I know about her, she goes back home and she makes sure if there's any weakness or any chink in her armor, she fixes it.
Samantha Briggs trying to hold off a challenge from Kara Webb. And despite the fact that Webb, and if you watched last year, you remember how awful she looked running in, looked like she was going to pass out. Webb still finished 13th in the event. Sam Briggs is among a group of women who are pushing for the first place spot here, as more women have joined these two towards the front of the pack. We got Carleen Matthews, Catherine Davidsdottir, and Kari Pearce, who are also now joining that fight for the lead here in Murph.
And you know, that's it. Sam Briggs went out so much ahead of the game, so much ahead of the pack that it was easy to watch her. But some of the other girls pacing that out the first couple rounds, waiting to make their move. Now is the time to do it in the final round or two.
Briggs has been passed by Carleen Matthews, who is back on the rig and starting round number 5. She is your leader in this event. A handful of women have been able to reel in Samantha Briggs. Carleen Matthews, one of them. Catherine Davidsdottir is also pushing for the top spot, as is Kari Pearce. Kara Webb is there. The 5th and final round for Carleen Matthews on the pull-ups.
Well, unlike other events where you are side by side with the athletes that are coming in, you know, on your placing, this was just a free-for-all, so it's hard for probably the other Sam to see both ends of the field where everyone is at, since you're so spread out.
But these are the type of workouts that Carleen does really well. She did well last year in Murph, you know, on her debut year. This past year has become so much more of an intense athlete, very strong, short range of motion for these the pull-ups, the push-ups, and the air squats. So that right there is where she was able to really kind of make up that distance on Sam, pass her up, and then we have to see what it's going to look like on the final run.
And like you said, she was here last year. She did this event. She was 4th last year in this event. That's got to give you a lot of confidence there. You know, it's just, you can't talk enough about experience, and especially when you've done the exact event and you get to do it again.
Sheila Barden is back on the rig, and she's a woman who did not do this event last year, and she's trying to score some points and move herself up the leaderboard. Barden is towards the bottom in 34th overall right now.
The wall ball event, that short sprint chipper in at the ranch just did her in with 50 wall balls. She just wasn't able to keep up.
Your top three were in the middle of your screen towards the right. Catherine Davidsdottir is chasing down Carleen Matthews. Matthews is your leader. Davidsdottir sits in second, and Kari Pearce is also in the top three. Sam Briggs had the lead for a while, then these three women just crept up on her and now find themselves out front here.
Catherine Davidsdottir, you know, the unexpected win last year. She's a very smart athlete, and she's even smarter this year. Training with Coach Ben Bergeron, she does a lot of things outside of the box. They go and they do a lot of different style events, workouts. She uses her fitness, but there's something she knows, and that's her pacing, and that's appropriate timing. And in a workout like this, it's very important to know your speed and to know how you want to break this up.
You want to talk about just a changed athlete, Catherine Davidsdottir. She went from finishing 30th in 2012, 24th in 2013. Then she misses the games, and a year later comes back and wins.
It surprised herself. So now, given that much more confidence, I'm so anxious to see how this all plays out this whole weekend, this long event, this long games, being 5 days long worth of competition, worth of events, and just her able to see with that confidence what she can do.
That's your leader, Carleen Matthews. Samantha Briggs did have the lead for quite a while in this event, but Carleen Matthews, Kari Pearce, and Catherine Davidsdottir were able to catch up and pass the woman who won this event last year.
I think the point here is just what we were speaking to before this even started. How it's partitioned makes a difference. Last year being the big sets, one time at the pull-up bar, one time, that's what gave Sam the benefit last year.
She's a stronger athlete for that sort of a setup, yeah.
But break it up and it evens the playing field a little bit more for these other athletes that have a little bit more speed and strength in the shorter chunks. Thorsdottir's looking a little fatigued there.
Yeah, I mean, if we caught her squat, it's even deteriorating even more. So that this is just not a workout that's built for. Yeah.
I think mentally too, Bill. That's what I wonder. Like, it's hard not to remember those pictures that we replay over and over, you know, on the screen. She probably replays just as bad images in her own head.
Those are two of your leaders. Carleen Matthews is on the right, Catherine Davidsdottir on the left. Matthews first of the air squats, but Davidsdottir keeping up a nice pace here.
Now, they still have that long 1 mile run, Sean. So what I love to see here for Catherine is she's regulating that pace. She's spicy there. Carleen almost was looking a little bit more timid or a little more hesitant.
Kari Pearce is off on the run, as is Carleen Matthews. Sheila Barden is also catching up with them. She's about ready to start her run. And now Catherine Davidsdottir on that final run as well. So Kari Pearce, the former University of Michigan gymnast, leads Carleen Matthews, who's making her second appearance at the CrossFit Games. She finished 36th last year. And Catherine Davidsdottir, this is huge for her because right now, Davidsdottir sits in 10th place overall, and just about every woman she is chasing in the overall standings is still on the field.
Last year, Catherine took 12th in this event and was still able to take that first. So yes, this would be huge.
Now, her squats, she really picked up the tempo on those squats to get right up there with Carleen. I'm wondering if the strategy for Carleen is, let me just make my way through this, rest up a little bit so that I can really put the pedal to the metal on the run.
Pearce is out front. Behind her is Catherine Davidsdottir, who managed to pass Carleen Matthews on the steps, which is pretty difficult to do.
We don't typically think of Catherine Davidsdottir as a runner, but the thing is, she really did go out strong on that first mile, and I was impressed because I was a little surprised to see her out there with the runners that we typically think of as runners, and she did just fine to even get through that portion. So, you know, she's done some work in the offseason.
Totally.
Samantha Briggs is off on the run as well. She will stop to get some water, and if there's a woman who can make up that gap, it's Samantha Briggs, and then two women out of the Pacific region, Cara Webb and Alethea Boone, joining Samantha Briggs, and Cara Webb has passed Samantha Briggs as they head up the stairs and out of the soccer stadium on this final 1 mile run.
And what a huge difference this run is already beginning for Cara Webb as opposed to last year when we saw her, I mean, literally finished not knowing where the heck she was. I mean, her head was all over the place. She was that smashed by the run and by the elements, and she looks great right now.
You have to wonder what the effects are going to be after this one for Briggs.
The usual suspects lead this thing. Samantha Briggs won the event last year. She's on the run. Alethea Boone finished second. She's on the run. Carlene Matthews finished fourth last year. Kari Pearce finished fifth in this event.
Kari Pearce, like you said, not only a rookie last year, but only had been training in CrossFit for 6 months. She's one of these newer athletes that just always is listening to her coach. What does her coach want to tell her? I guarantee her coach told her a lot about last year's Murph event and this one leading into it.
Annie Thorisdottir closing out round number 5, as is Tia Toomey. These are two of the women who did not do well on this event last year. They were just hoping for something in the middle of the pack, survive this event, and then move on to the rest of the competition. Toomey is your overall leader, but only by 16 points over rookie Tennille Reed. But this is the event leader. That's Kari Pearce, who's trying to hold off Katrin Davidsdottir and Carlene Matthews.
And Sean, on that first mile, these women were coming in at about 7 minutes, 7 minutes 30. Look where we are right now time-wise, 31 minutes. So it looks to me that right out of the gate, we're going to have times that were better in last year's.
Best time last year belonged to Samantha Briggs. That was 39 minutes, 10.1 seconds. Sarah Sigmundsdottir, the woman who finished in third place in 2015 in her rookie year, has started her run. She's on the bottom right of your screen. So Sarah Sigmundsdottir finished 9th in this event last year. A similar result today would certainly serve her well.
And you know, it's not that Sarah Sigmundsdottir, it's not that Sam Briggs is any less fit. It's that the other girls are that much fitter. They're that much better. They attacked this Murph this year a lot better than they did last year.
32 minutes. We are 32.
Past the 32-minute mark. And again, last year, these women did this event in the middle of the day around 1 p.m. Pacific time. We started earlier, 7 a.m. Pacific time here in Carson, California. The temperature around 70 degrees at the time, but it is certainly started to get a little hotter here as Kari Pearce makes the turn, heads back towards the soccer stadium. Davidsdottir is in second, and it's Carlene Matthews in third. Annie Thorisdottir going to the water. Water has been made available on the field for all the athletes, cooling herself off, and now she is out on the run. So Annie Thorisdottir, if she can keep this spot, she's got to be very happy with this.
Much better. I will say, I don't like to see exact same pictures, and she did that last year, pouring the water in her head. Just go for the run, Annie. You're good. But no, off to a much better. I mean, this just looking at her demeanor, looking at her run, this looks like her. She's still in it. As much as this probably took its toll on her, just like the other athletes, she's still in the game, and she still is definitely in a better position than she was last year.
And of course, everybody's going to look tired at this point of the event, but last year, Annie Thorisdottir was stumbling. She had her hands on her knees. She had some heat problems that she was dealing with throughout the back half of the event. Sandra Pacelli is on the bottom right. She came in 6th place overall, and she is falling behind many of the women who are on the final 1 mile run. But Kari Pearce continues to lead, looking for her first career event win at the CrossFit Games. Her prior best finish was a 2nd place finish last year in the soccer chipper. Pearce with a pretty good lead over Katrin Davidsdottir, but Davidsdottir certainly not making it easy on Kari Pearce. And Davidsdottir starting to separate herself from Carlene Matthews.
Just so impressive. Katrin Davidsdottir, I really am impressed with her this year. Coming into this event, I did not expect to see her doing so well and looking so relaxed. She looks fresh. She doesn't look as fatigued as some of the other athletes.
But look what she's done, though, over the past year. You came out, moved to Boston so she could be close with Ben Bergeron, our coach. And you know, I mean, Ben is a CrossFit purist. So if you're going to have anyone that's going to do well at a classic CrossFit workout, you're going to have someone like that.
The other thing she did this year in training is really dialed in her nutrition, her diet, and she really got that under control. She works with a nutritionist, and so that, I think, is another huge component to your game.
Alessandra Pacelli is off on the run, and she is trying to hold off Katrin Davidsdottir among some other women. Pacelli coming in 6th place overall, and Katrin Davidsdottir is going to pick up some valuable points on Pacelli, Thorisdottir, and Sigmundsdottir. She can keep her second place position right now and lock up 94 points in this event. The leaders making the turn, and they'll be coming back into the stadium, and a very good chance that Kari Pearce, if she keeps this pace, is going to beat Samantha Briggs' time from last year, 39 minutes, 10.1 seconds. Again, same amount of reps, but partitioned differently in 2015. Davidsdottir still sits in second, followed by Carleen Matthews. Matthews finished fourth in Murph last year. Looking to improve that by one spot. Catherine Davidsdottir finished 12th, and she's looking to move all the way up to second place in this event in 2016.
Catherine's in a great spot athletically right now. Just having the leader right in front of you, and you get to pick when you want to pass him, really puts Pearce in a very defensive position.
Kari Pearce is watching her lead slowly shrink as Catherine Davidsdottir is starting to pick up some ground here. And now down the steps. Now this is where Pearce has the advantage, because obviously Davidsdottir is not going to be able to pass her on this leg, but get ready for a sprint down the field between these two athletes.
This is where it gets exciting.
Pearce and Davidsdottir on the field together. Pearce has the lead, and Davidsdottir is a little bit taller, but it looks like Kari Pearce is going to be able to hold off the 2015 fittest woman on earth. And Kari Pearce will get her first career event win at the CrossFit Games as she takes Murph.
What a performance. That was an awesome foot race at the end. But very impressive, Kari Pearce.
Carleen Matthews certainly is consistent. Fourth in Murph last year. She'll finish third this year. Davidsdottir finished second. Matthews will pick up 88 extremely valuable points, and she's going to move up the leaderboard, as will that woman, Kari Pearce. First career event win. She came in 21st place overall, and here comes Samantha Briggs.
But it wasn't another first like we were expecting. Things changed a little bit for Sam there with the other athletes, but still a top 5 performance.
Samantha Briggs is going to beat her time from last year by a sizable margin. Briggs comes in 37 minutes, 43.18 seconds, and another woman who did extremely well in this event last year, Kristen Holta. She was third. She'll be sixth in 2016. Make that fifth with a time of 37 minutes, 57.95 seconds. And this is big. Sheila Barden, who had a tough start on Wednesday, spoke to her at the end of the day in aerobics and said she's looking forward to getting back here to Carson and facing some movements that she knows she's good at, and pull-ups and push-ups are certainly one of them. So Sheila Barden coming across the finish line, sixth place for Barden, 38 minutes, 20.84 seconds. And Christy Aramo, the rookie, set to come across the finish line, and here comes Cara Webb.
Wow,
and this is a much different scene and a much better scene for Cara Webb. And look at the smile on her face as she conquers some demons with that finish. 8th place in Murph, just a year after suffering heat exhaustion and passing out at the end of this event. Alethea Boone is in her trademark somersault across the finish line, and now Annie Thorisdottir, who does look fatigued but still looks pretty good compared to what happened last year, and this will be a good result for her if she can just stay in the middle of the pack.
And these athletes, with Annie, she knows this stuff. She knows the experience, has experience there. And if it's going to be a workout that is, or an event that's not in your wheelhouse, it's just about damage control. You just have to do okay in this, make it through it.
The good thing for Annie is there's nobody around her, so there's really no need to push it.
Right.
If she would get herself into trouble, if she had a foot race like we saw with Pearce and Davidsdottir, but for Annie, if she can just hang here and kind of watch her position, there's no need to push it too much.
And plenty of events to go for Annie Thorisdottir. She comes in with 12 career event wins before this year at the CrossFit Games, so she can do damage in the games. Anna Tunnicliffe is ahead of your overall leader, Tia Toomey, who is trying to now do damage control, as many of the women who are right behind her in the overall standings have already finished, and she did not have much of a lead on Tanil Reed or Samantha Briggs. And Sarah Sigmundsdottir is one of the women who's trying to catch up with Tia Toomey, and she is going to do herself a favor as she is set to come across the finish line. And Sarah Sigmundsdottir, not as good as last year, but in the big picture of the competition this year, this will be a great finish for her. Sigmundsdottir will come across in 11th place in the event. We've had a couple more women finish. Caroline Reason-Tebow finished in 10th. That was after Alethea Boone, and now Sarah Sigmundsdottir is across. 40 minutes, 31.08 seconds. And now more women inside the soccer stadium. Emily Bridgers is in. China Cho has finished. Turi Helgadottir is across the finish line. Alexis Johnson just finished up. Annie Thorisdottir into the stadium. Tanil Reed, the rookie, who came in second place overall, finished up. And now here's overall leader Tia Toomey, who is going to fall down the leaderboard, as there's a very good chance that Samantha Briggs could take over the top spot
But Sean,
on the overall leaderboard.
It's only Friday, and last year we didn't even talk much about Toomey. She crept up into second place, taking the second overall, and didn't place very well here. So yeah, while it seems not great for today, and where she's going to probably finish up today, there's still plenty more events to go. And Toomey is definitely a stronger mentally and physical athlete than we saw last year.
Tia Toomey is across the finish line. And Annie Thorisdottir is definitely going to improve on her finish. Last year in this event, she was 33rd in 2015 and almost passed out another former champion. Camilla Blanc-Bazinet in the yellow shirt is right behind her. Camilla Blanc-Bazinet won the 2014 Reebok CrossFit Games. And then rookie Tasia Persevich in the blue pants now passing Annie Thorisdottir on the steps.
Well, that's just it. Where they're placing in this event, I think it's important. It is, but for some of these athletes, it's even more important the condition they're finishing this event in for the rest of the events for today, tomorrow.
Annie Thorisdottir saw those two women pass her, and now she has kicked it into another gear. She tries to catch up with Tasia Persevich and Camilla Blanc-Bazinet as we have a foot race towards the finish line. And Camilla Blanc-Bazinet is going to get the best of that one ahead of Tasia Persevich, but Annie Thorisdottir, mentally for her, this is a victory.
Sure is. That was the foot race I didn't want to see for her. That was the push that her body she didn't want either. But that mentally she got through Murph, and she is painful as she looks like the pain she's in is better than last year. Lauren
Fisher was across. Christy Adkins is across as well. Annie Thorisdottir stripping that vest. And there's Candice Wagner, the woman who is in the lead for much of the first 1 mile run, and now Sandra Pacelli getting set to cross the finish line. Wagner finishes 27th, so Pacelli will come in 28th place, 43 minutes, 36.03 seconds. And Jen Smith has made it through the pull-ups, push-ups, and air squats, all 600 reps. She walked a mile to start, and she's going to try to hustle through this final mile. There's a 55-minute time cap, so there is a chance that Jen Smith on a bad wheel could get inside the time cap.
That's not just all heart, but there's so many people out there that can't get through this workout healthy in the time that Jen Smith has already done this. So it just goes to show the level of fitness that these women really are at. And Jen Smith, just keep pushing, girl.
Stacy Tovar is coming across the finish line, and you would think with an injury that Jen Smith would be dead last. She's not. That's the woman who currently is behind Jen Smith, and that is Meg Reardon, another Games rookie. But very often the most impressive performances we see at the CrossFit Games are not from the athletes that win. It's from the athletes that are battling some sort of adversity, some sort of injury. We've seen it throughout the years. And if Jen Smith can get back inside the soccer stadium, this crowd is going to erupt, and she has 10 minutes to do it.
You just took the words right out of my mouth. It's just such a gutsy performance, and people love that. People love the winner, but they cheer even louder for the underdog that they know has something affecting them, that they're the hardship.
Michelle Letong is coming across the finish line. She will finish 31st, so a handful of women still have not come across the finish line, and now 2 more women finishing up. That's Carleen Fuhrer and Justine Beeth. Fuhrer was first. She'll finish 32nd. Justine Beeth will finish 33rd. Beeth in the yellow shirt, Fuhrer just stripping off her vest.
Marco Alvarez, being the great sportsman that she is, she's helping her out to get that vest off.
Becca Voigt, who has been to the CrossFit Games 9 times. She's 35 years old. She's the oldest competitor in the field. But what a career that woman has had.
Very wise. She knows her body. She knows her age. She knows where she's at. And it might look like, oh, she looks so relaxed. She knows it's a long competition, and she knows her body. She's not looking to have any issue, making it through the weekend. She wants to get through them all. It's not just about Murph.
Becca Voigt's best finish at the CrossFit Games was in 2011. She was on the podium when she finished in 3rd place. "55-minute time cap here on Murph, the 2016 version. And Meg Reardon passing Jen Smith on the run. So now Jen Smith is in last place. 8 minutes to go to finish up, and still managing to smile here. And for those of you who may be new to this sport, I know I'm supposed to be impartial, not supposed to be cheering for anything, but I want to see Jen Smith get back in this soccer stadium so you can hear the ovation that she's going to receive from this crowd as Becca Voigt descends down the stairs. She's back on the field, and she'll close out her event inside the 55-minute time cap. Only individual to compete at the CrossFit Games 9 times.
And it is so impressive at 35 years old. There's been, speculation. Is there going to be a Masters division next year at 35? If there is, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you might be looking at your winner.
Well, she won't go there, Sean. She won't do it. She's going to go for the women's division.
Every year that we preview the California Regional, she never gets the attention that she deserves. It's because there's so many heavy hitters in Northern California and Southern California that you forget Becca Voigt, but the most consistent athlete out there.
Yeah, that is. She will not. You don't pick her to win any event. Right. She will always be in the mix in every event. She's just so consistent in everything that they throw at her.
And no big weakness. There's nothing that really takes her out.
This is the remaining drama taking place here in Murph as the majority of the field has come across the finish line. Jen Smith is on her final mile run. She is obviously walking that because of an injury that she suffered on Wednesday. Another woman still on the run is Emily Abbott. And this is one of those events that Emily Abbott was just trying to survive. She finished 8th at the CrossFit Games last year. That's a career best finish for her.
Emily Abbott likes to just throw weight around.
She is about grunt work.
She'll get an opportunity to do that later on.
We don't know how many events remain for these women. This is the 5th one, but we do know they have the rest of today. They have Saturday and Sunday. This is also the first time in CrossFit Games history that we've had 5 straight days of competition. We've had off-site events on Wednesday in the past, but then Thursday was purely a rest day. they stuck him in the water on Thursday and made him do a 500-meter swim. I mean, it was a light day, but still, usually that's a day dedicated to rest.
I just love that they mixed it up. People were getting a little, I don't want to say too comfortable, but they were used to the schedule. All right, I swim on Wednesday. My coach and I were going to talk on Thursday. There's nothing wrong with that because over a couple of years, they just got accustomed to it. So you expect it. So I love the little monkey wrench. Keep them on their toes. Train for the unknown, unknowable. You don't. That means anything goes.
And I don't think it was a physical attack on them having to do the swim on Thursday. It was a mental attack.
Right.
They still had to mentally get up. They had to mentally prepare. They had to mentally do well. So that it was the mental aspect that was thrown into that.
Well, Meg Reardon is getting set to come across the finish line. Reardon, the Games rookie out of the Atlantic Regional, where she finished third, won the final event. That helped her get here to Carson, California. And Emily Abbott now climbing down the steps as we have less than 5 minutes to go before we hit that 55-minute time cap.
And Emily Abbott, this is her third consecutive game. She took 8th last year. Very impressive finish for her. Doesn't get a lot of credit. Doesn't get a lot of screen time, but very impressive with last year's, given how hard last year's games was.
Emily Abbott, one of 3 women who are still on the run. She's about to finish up. The other 2 are Whitney Capelucci and Jen Smith. 55-minute time cap, and Emily Abbott is done. Whitney Capelucci was the woman who was behind Jen Smith. I'd misidentified her as Meg Reardon, but it was Whitney Capelucci who was behind Jen Smith, and now Capelucci, the only healthy woman.
Well, not too healthy. She actually recently suffered a hamstring strain, so not exactly sure, if that's playing a part in any of this or in the pacing that she's doing here on the run.
The only woman not walking. I'll
say that.
I'll revise that statement.
I think that's something to talk about, though. These athletes are training at the highest level coming into competition. They're not, majority of them are not coming in here feeling 100%. They are banged up. There's little tweaks, there's little nags, there's things that they're coming in with. And so, unfortunately, that's just kind of the luck of how it goes. But yeah, some of these athletes do have little things. They don't always want to share it with everybody either.
You know, and one of the things that with Jen Smith, you have to think, we have a very long week for these athletes. The question is going to be thrown at Jen, okay, should you have even done this? Should you keep pushing as hard as you're pushing right now? Or, I mean, are you planning to withdraw? Is this going to make your injury worse? Is it going to make, is it going to benefit you to keep on pushing? And this is where the athlete part starts to step in. You can talk strategy all you want, but at some point you're going to be sitting in the room by yourself and thinking, did I do what I needed to do, or am I going to feel okay with this? And with Jen, she's being the athlete. She's like, I'm going to push what I have because that's what I'm here to do.
I love that she's doing that. She missed out going to the games the past 2 years with with the skin of her teeth, missed it, and was on the demo team. She's been here apart, so close to it being on the demo team. She has her opportunity here. Go for it.
And one other thing I'll say about this is the difference will be if you're putting yourself at risk to be in the top, then okay, maybe be a little bit more cautious if you need to kind of play with that. But right now, I mean, she's already known she had issues on the first run, issues on the deadlift. You know what? You got to go and do what you're going to do because she has to make herself feel good with her performance here. So if she's going to be in the bottom half, then you know what? Go out with the bang.
This is when you have fun. Remember Julie Fouché? You have fun with it. This is when you just keep going. You do what you can, and you see, where can my fitness take me when something like this comes up and unexpected?
You know, I'm a proponent for go big or go home. That's just the way I like to ride my life.
That's why we love you, Bill.
Yep, that is a fact. Whitney Capelucci coming across the finish line. That means that Jen Smith on the bottom right of your screen is the only woman left on the course, and she is getting close to making the turn into the soccer stadium here. And we have 1 minute and 6 seconds to go before we hit the time cap. So Jen Smith looks like she's going to make it at least inside the confines of the soccer stadium, probably not across the finish line. But the crowd here in the soccer stadium, a lot of them are on their feet awaiting her arrival, as we have 45 seconds to go before we hit the time cap.
We want her to at least get the ovation and at least hear the cheers from the fans.
Jen Smith about to make her way into the soccer stadium. 30 seconds before we hit the time cap, and she is getting the salute from the crowd that she deserves. On the leaderboard, Jen Smith is not going to get any points for this event. But right now, the way this crowd is saluting her, I don't think she cares.
And you know the impressive thing, Sean, 3 zeros, and she still is not in the bottom of the leaderboard. She is not in last place.
Just a testament to the fitness of Jen Smith, and probably a result again on the leaderboard that she'd want to forget, but certainly not an experience that she's ever going to forget. But here are your top 3 women in the 2016 version of Murph. It's Kari Pearce holding off Katrin David's daughter, and then Carlene Matthews, who finished 4th last year, finishes in 3rd. It started the same way as we did last year. Cadence Wagner was out early, but as we also saw last year, the woman who went out first wasn't necessarily the woman who won the event.
Typically what happens is that, and it was Sam Briggs, though, the surprise to us. She was out to the early lead once they got back into the soccer stadium. That was not a surprise. She was nice and relaxed through her first couple rounds, but what was the surprise is all the other athletes who caught up to her and then passed her, like Carlene Matthews right here. It was a race, a battle between Carlene Matthews, Katrin David's daughter, and Kari Pearce on the final round to see who was going to get out for the last run. Right there is where Kari Pearce passed Carlene Matthews, got out on the run first, and then it was Kari Pearce who kept that lead all the way until the end. She had the pressure of Katrin David's daughter through that final leg outside the stadium, but once they got into the stadium, we knew it was going to be a foot race, but Kari Pearce had enough in the tank to run away with it and get the victory in the first place.
And Kari Pearce gets the event win, her first career event win at the CrossFit Games. But the crowd here at the StubHub Center is still cheering. Why? Because that woman, clock be damned, she's going to finish.
We all have those athletes at the box that do that. They say, I'm finishing this, and go right ahead. You keep moving.
Let's send it down to Nikki Fraser, who is with your event winner.
Kari Pearce on the top of this event. We have seen you excel in so many gymnastics movements in your short CrossFit career, but we've never seen an engine on you like this before. Where did that come from?
Thanks. It just came from a lot of hard work throughout this last year. I've been doing more endurance type workouts, working more on my running. My coach made me do Murph last week with part of it with a 35-pound sandbag, running around in 90-degree weather in New York City with my vest from last year. I had some stairs incorporated in it, so I knew that this would be, a little bit easier than that. So that's what helped me push through to the end.
Well, congratulations. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Kari Pearce, her first career event win at the CrossFit Games, and that'll earn her 100 points. And Katrin David's daughter, the defending champion. What an improvement for her this year. She finishes in 2nd. Carlene Matthews improves by 1 spot. She'll finish in 3rd, and then Samantha Briggs is 4th. Sarah Sigmund's daughter is 11th. Good finish for her. Rookie Tennille Reed, who is in 2nd place overall, coming into this event, finishes in 16th, and your overall leader, Tia Toomey, is in 18th. Former champions, Camila Blanc-Bazinet finishes 22nd. Annie Thorisdottir improves on last year. More importantly, stays healthy. She finishes 24th, and then the woman who got the loudest ovation of them all, Jen Smith, gets time capped. The men are up next, and they are on the field, and they are facing the exact same test. A 1-mile run, then 5 rounds of 20 pull-ups, 40 push-ups, and 60 squats, and then a final 1-mile run. And Matt Fraser comes in as the overall leader, but not by much, trying to hold off Brett Fikowski, who is just 14 points behind him. Björn Gudmundsson, the youngster out of Iceland. Right behind the two men in front of your screen. Gudmundsson won this event in 2015. Just like that, the men take off on their 1 mile run, and last year it was Joe Scally who jumped out to an early lead on the run, and we basically never heard from him again. So just like we saw with the women, the guy who goes out first is not necessarily the man who is going to win this event.
What was impressive is if you looked at the very front, we had some athletes that know what's going on. So we had Cole Sager that ran to the front. We had Josh Bridges. Now Josh Bridges is in a little bit of redemption year this year, since he wasn't here last year. Getting himself up to the front to set that pace. If anyone wants to attack, it's going to be Josh Bridges.
Josh Bridges was a man who did not take on this event last year, and he's been looking forward to going through this event.
But being a former SEAL, you know that he has done this plenty of times, and this is one of the events that if we did have someone that needed to grind, Josh Bridges is obviously going to do well here. But we have a handful of guys that we need to look at, and right at the top of the leaderboard, we have to start with Matt Fraser. I mean, already in the lead, he's come into his whole CrossFit career with Olympic lifting background, but has become this insane endurance athlete. I mean, he was second in this event last year, won the run this year, and here he is up at the front of the pack, and this already leading the leaderboard, and going into Friday. So just insane motor on this kid. And if anyone is set up to really, he's tired of taking second. He got really upset at me last time when I said that he was the bridesmaid and never the bride, so he's going to prove me wrong on this one, hopefully.
Well, we saw in Aromas, he made a statement. He didn't just win the 7K. He blew this competition out of the water. What I love, though, is that Josh Bridges was leading the pack in that 7K, and I like seeing him hold back just a little bit here because Bridges has the advantage with his short frame on the gymnastic movements when they come here for the pull-ups. And so I think it's a really wise move of him to hold back just a little bit, really be wise and push it where he has maybe a little bit of an advantage over Matt.
That's Travis Mayer, who is out front early here on this initial 1 mile run. Rob Forte behind him. He's in the light top. Josh Bridges in that group. Jacob Hepner with no shirt on underneath his vest. He was in that pack that's following Travis Mayer, who's your leader here in this initial 1 mile run.
Travis is having an amazing start to his CrossFit career right now. At least coming up with all the events we have. He's never sat this high, and I know he was struggling a little bit in the regional competition. Man, is he making just a statement. He looks great.
Matt Fraser among that group right next to Josh Bridges. The two of them were right next to each other on that 7K trail run, and I'm sure Bridges is looking to his right and saying, you got to be kidding me, you again? And now Rob Forte moves himself into the lead on this 1 mile run, but still plenty of work that needs to be done. Rob Forte is a guy who's traditionally done well in these longer events. Remember, a couple years ago, he won that 333 event. Travis Mayer making the turn, Bridges making the turn, Alex Anderson making the turn. There's Noah Olsen, Björn Gudmundsson, defending champ Ben Smith, Jacob Hepner making the turn back towards the soccer stadium. And Matt Fraser currently sits in 4th place on this run, and Fraser had an outstanding finish last year. He was 2nd last year in Murph.
These vests are made by 511 Tactical. They are a real tactical company that are made for tactical operators. So the athletes are using the best of the best equipment. The steel plate that goes inside of these goes here. Katrin David's daughter, 2nd in that event, and the reigning fittest woman on earth, was generous enough to loan me hers. One thing you might see the men take advantage of, when they finish the race, there's a feature for operators in case they catch on fire, fall in the water. It's a quick pull emergency release. So if the athletes pull this, boom, it's an eject button. hopefully they don't need to do that before the end of the event.
Thank you, Rowan. I'm sure a lot of athletes not only want to take that thing off, but also punt it into the stands and never deal with it again after this event. Rob Forte continues the lead. He finished 24th in Murph last year. He had a time of 48 minutes, 31.5 seconds. Past the 5-minute mark on this initial 1-mile run, Forte continues to lead. Matt Fraser in the white shirt and sunglasses is behind him. Alex Anderson in the gray. Josh Bridges in the headband and sunglasses towards the front. So not nearly the margin that we saw with the women, as all the men staying pretty much even here on this 1-mile run.
What we aren't seeing this year that we saw last year is anyone running out to the front, trying to get that 15 minutes of fame, leading the pack, being the first one coming in. We have a very large group that's all huddling together, but there really aren't any newbies in that group. These are the veterans that are in the front. They know the pace to push, they know the tempo that they need to run, and they know how they need to feel going into all the pull-ups and push-ups and air squats, so that they have that gas for that last mile.
They also got to see the women. They saw there were some foot races there at the end, and they're not going to want. They don't want to foot race now if they and use the energy now when they need it. Come back in the soccer stadium at the end.
The men making the turn to head in to the soccer stadium and get to work on those 5 rounds of pull-ups, push-ups, and air squats. Jacob Anderson is your leader. His brother Alex is a few men behind him. Forte's in second, followed by Matt Fraser, who now passes Forte. Bjorn Gudmundsson is up there. He was in the blue. Albert Dominique LaRouche, Samuel Quant, Con Porter. With the women, we saw a couple make it into the tennis stadium, followed by sort of a trickling pack. With the men, they have managed once again to stay close to each other, but it's going to be Jacob Anderson, the first man to the steps.
Jacob Anderson, I wouldn't pick him as an endurance athlete by any means, but he's a very strong pushing athlete. You get any kind of handstand push-ups or any sort of gymnastic movement like that, he does extremely well. So I'm really excited to see. I mean, he made a statement by jumping out to the front and trying to pull these guys in. He wants to get to the bar, and he wants to get to those reps as soon as he can, really kind of put those gymnastics to the task.
That's a good point, because the guys are going to do this a little differently. The girls maybe broke up those push-ups a little bit more than the guys have to, so really, and they can hold on to the pull-ups even more so usually than the women as well, so this will be attacked a little bit differently. So anybody that has an advantage with the push-up portion of this event is going to do well.
But Jacob Anderson needs some points. He comes in 39th place overall. First time at the CrossFit Games for him. He's the 4th member of his family to qualify for the games. His dad, Steve, won the Masters title in 2011, and his brother, Zach, finished 10th in 2013. And then, of course, his brother, Alex, is competing with him here today. Alex was in the games last year when he finished 13th. So a very fit Anderson family.
Yeah, there's some pretty good genes running in that household.
That is unbelievable.
Just like you talked about, Bill, his arms, look at that. I mean, he knows what he's doing, knows his chunks he's going to hit, and look how he's aggressive with that push.
Jacob Anderson on the left, Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson, who made a statement with the win in this event last year, is on the right. He's in the blue shirt on his knees, taking a break in his first round of push-ups. And Matt Fraser is keeping pace with the leaders. Fraser second in this event last year behind Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson. Josh Bridges is your leader. He is the first man onto that initial round of 60 air squats.
Now this is where we talked about Josh being in a great position for this particular workout. If he can keep with everyone on the run, and he's dealt with rucking, obviously being in the military, he's dealt with being able to carry weights while you're doing kind of movements and running. But now we're in range of motion movements. The pull-ups, shorter levers, he's going to be able to move faster. Push-ups, shorter levels, he's going to be able to move faster. And air squats, same thing. Plus, he has that mindset. He will push these and not stop. I don't expect to see a lot of breaks with, there he is, Mr. D'Artagnan himself, with that little mustache and beard he's got going on. I expect him to see him move aggressively through all of these reps. He's going to push the pace here.
He also has the mentality. He has that mindset that this stoic look, you're going to see this the whole time. Even if he's in pain, he was a SEAL. He knows how you act, how you carry yourself, and he's going to keep that look to him. I don't expect that to change. Even if he is in pain, you won't see it.
Bridges done with round 1 and back for round 2. And if he read the description that we had just had up on the screen, I'm sure that would have motivated him as well. He doesn't like to be told things like he's the oldest and the shortest. He's gonna use that as fire had he seen it.
Sorry, Josh.
Hey, facts are facts. And right now the fact is that Josh Bridges is your leader here in Murph, looking to go unbroken on the second round of 20 pull-ups. Matt Fraser now back to the pull-up bar. Fraser coming in with the overall lead by 14 points over Brent Fikowski. Fraser's history has been well documented here at the CrossFit Games. This is his third appearance. He's finished second both times. He is on a mission to get himself to the top of the podium here in 2016, and he is closing out his second round of 20 pull-ups. Fraser is done, and he will join Josh Bridges on the second round of 40 push-ups. The women wore 14 pounds on that weight vest. The men have 20 pounds strapped to them.
One of the nice things, you can see right where that shade line is. If you're in the shade, that's a huge advantage. When you're sitting in the sun, even though we're not in the heat of the day right now, but the sun just beats on you, and the sun on the grass, that humidity, that humid feeling, that's a huge difference. So any of these athletes right here, like Jacob, stretching his arms out in the white shirt, he has to deal with the heat. Josh Bridges does not have to deal with the heat.
Well, he was the first one back. He had the choice of what lane to go to. He chose that lane because he was the first back. It was the closest, but maybe the wiser decision would have been to hop a few lanes over, stay in the shade, keep your body temp down a little bit.
And we've seen in events like this where it's first person in gets to pick. Usually everyone just goes right to the middle and it fans out from there, but that's a great point. About half the field is shaded right now, and Josh Bridges is one of the men who is lucky enough or possibly smart enough
and that's
to pick a lane in that shade.
Right, that's experience. This is Jacob's first time. So he wanted to get to the bar and do what he knows to do, and he kind of went moth to the light on that one.
Sometimes the first thing you think, oh, that seems the best, isn't always.
We talk about home run potential whenever we mention Josh Bridges. This is a guy who usually wins events and normally wins them in the tennis stadium when we turn on the lights and compete at night there. But Josh Bridges comes into the CrossFit Games this year with 7 career event wins.
I am standing on that line you're speaking of between the sun and the shade, and I can verify that the difference in temperature is at least 6 degrees. We talked to the head medical earlier, and he told me during the women's race earlier, over the course of the hour, that's the exact amount the temperature raised, was 6 degrees over the course of the event. But from the sun to the shade, as Bill said, is a phenomenal difference. In the shade, still even got wet dew on the ground.
Thanks, Ro. Jacob Anderson continuing to work through his second round of air squats. One of the athletes obviously in the sun, as Josh Bridges will now go back for round number 3, and it begins with 20 more pull-ups.
Josh looks phenomenal. He looks so impressive. And I honestly want to know, and this is something I need to ask him, and I apologize for not having this information for you guys, but I wonder how many times he's actually done Murph in his CrossFit career, being you know, in the military, being in the Navy, being around that SEAL mentality and that SEAL group. How many times has he done this even just on his own? Because he looks extremely comfortable.
He is extremely comfortable, and that's the thing. When he comes out in any competition, you know, missing the games last year, like it's been a while, but when he's here in competition, he always looks that good.
Bridges moving back to the push-ups. You saw Matt Fraser walking back to the rig to start his third round, and Bjorn Gudmundsson is trying to stay up towards the front as well. This is the man who won this event last year and finished third behind Ben Smith and Matt Fraser.
And last year he held just a great tempo. He wasn't out in the front right away. Slowly just crept his way past everyone. Just consistent. And with with Gudmundsson, he really shows zero expression on his face. I think whether he's winning when he did win and when he wasn't doing as well at some of the other events, you didn't see any expressional change. So you can't go by facial expression of is he having a hard time or not. He just moves. He's very mechanical.
Bjorgvin Gudmundsson is back to the pull-up bar for round number 3. Travis Williams. This is a guy who last year admitted that as a rookie, he didn't really know what he was doing. He just, between events, kind of just sat down and didn't do anything to help his recovery, and then would just go back and compete again. So this is a much more mature athlete and a much more well-rounded athlete as well.
That's what experience does. I mean, you don't know. You can think you know at home, and you can think, oh, I'm going to do this or that, but you really don't know until you get there, and then it goes out the window sometimes. Sometimes you're doing something completely different than everybody else, and you're like, well, what's that? It's being in the community. It's being in the competition that really helps you to hear, what works for some doesn't always work for others, but gives you options.
Josh Bridges continues to lead as we approach the 16-minute mark. Right next to him is Jacob Hepner. Hepner among the top men in this event. Josh Bridges on to round 3 of those 60 air squats.
Look at how comfortable. Chest is up nice and tall. Looks relaxed.
He has nice range of motion and nice mobility in his hips. He looks really comfortable in that squat.
Those are your top 3 athletes, left to right. Josh Bridges in second place. It's Jacob Hepner. He's in the yellow shorts. And then in third at the bottom right of your screen is Matt Fraser.
And the more efficient you can be, when you look that comfortable, we talk about, oh, they look comfortable. Okay, what does that mean? It means that they're being efficient with their movement. It means they're not wasting any extra effort. Muscles don't have to be engaged to hold them in position that they shouldn't. It's just using just enough muscle, just enough energy to do what you have to and what's required.
Well, and it's hard to say that Josh looks like he's recovering, but it looks like he's recovering during these air squats. He's breathing great, his chest is up nice and tall. And you got to remember that weight vest that's on you, if it hangs on you in a weird way, it actually does kind of compress your lungs, so it makes it difficult to breathe. But if he's upright, then the weight of the plates aren't on your chest, it's more on your shoulders. So this is a very comfortable position for him.
There, even look at Noah Olson. Holding the vest looks a little more labored. It's more effort. Every squat looks a little bit more taxing.
But despite that, Noah Olson has moved himself into third place in this event. Noah Olson making his 3rd appearance here at the CrossFit Games. He's finished 8th both years. Josh Bridges currently comes into the event at 7th place overall. And many of the men he's chasing, he is ahead of right now. The only guy who's close to him is Matt Fraser, and he's your overall leader. Josh Bridges looking like he can move his way up the leaderboard here in Murph.
Now look at Matt's feet. His feet were so close together, and that's, even though he can move through the squat, he should be spreading those feet out a little bit wider. If you saw earlier with Noah Olson's feet were very wide, shortens up the range of motion, but it's just a better position. Unless the only thing I could think of is that he's trying to let the backside relax a little bit and try to make that squat be a little bit more on the quad.
That was my go-to point. Yes.
Josh Bridges will start round 4 of his push-ups as he once again ripped through those pull-ups, and he continues to lead here, looking for his 8th career event win at the CrossFit Games. Matt Fraser is in second. Fraser finished 2nd last year in Murph as well. I'm sure Matt Fraser is getting tired of hearing the word second.
He told me he was. He was rather upset with me, the fact that I brought that up. And his mindset and his look is so much more determined this year than I've seen him in previous years. And not that he's always been a very competitive, a very consummate competitor, but he's on a man. He's a man on a mission.
He looked angry before every event at the regionals, and he was. He said, "It's because I am." Like, yeah. I wasn't just like, it's not like game face. Like, no, like I'm done. I'm done with this second place crap.
I watched him a little bit when he was in Aromas, and the other athletes talk, and there's a social vibe going on between events and things like that. Not that Matt Fraser wasn't partaking in that, but he was definitely in his own little world. And like you said, you can tell this guy is on a mission this year.
We've never seen 2 years in a row it happen. It happened to me 2008. I lost by 10 seconds. Do you know I was haunted by 10 seconds for 365 days? And I got redemption. I cannot imagine that second year of training. I cannot imagine this past year of training being like, you got to be kidding me, like that close again.
Brent Fikowski came into this event in second place overall. After the trail run, he had to go to the medical tent in Aromas because he said he just went out too hard. And it looks like he's feeling the effects here of Murph. This is a guy who has a motor, so the fact that he's not towards the front, I think, is a little surprising right now.
But I will say this, what I've seen with Brent is he is a pacing master. He will let people get, not that he lets people get way ahead of them, he has his game plan, and he really competes with blinders on. He doesn't watch to see where anybody is. He does his race. He knows exactly where he needs to be and how he needs to be all the way through. We obviously know he's great with endurance type events. That's not going to be an issue for him. But I was really anxious to see how he's going to do. I want to see how he's going to finish up towards that last round and then into that last run.
And it's not that the other guys don't have a pacing strategy, but sometimes you're the athlete, well, I can go a little faster, so I will because that person's doing this or the other one's doing this. And that's just what can sometimes catch up to you in a longer event like Murph.
Well, Matt Fraser certainly learned his lesson. Last year, he didn't take any water out to the field with him. This year, he's been going to that water early and often, and it was made available to the athletes. There's some white coolers in the background that you can see. Those things all have ice and water in them that have been made available to the athletes. But yeah, last year, Matt Fraser didn't have a single sip of water, and he's pouring it over his head. He's drinking it. He's doing everything he can to deal with the elements.
And during the briefing, they were talked to by medic, and they said, you know, keep your core temperature down, all the things that you can do to help combat any of the heat out there.
Josh Bridges continues to lead. He is on his 5th round of pull-ups.
Look at this speed. Every single set of pull-ups have been unbroken. Every single set has been a set of 20. That is insane.
Beautiful.
Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson, meanwhile, has moved into 5th place. It's the man who won this event last year. Gudmundsson sits in 5th place overall. We do not know how many events remain for these men, but we do know there's going to be competition the rest of today, Saturday, and Sunday. Josh Bridges on to his final set of 40 push-ups.
Look at that speed.
You put him next to any of these other athletes on any of the movements, and his rep count, the speed of his reps is almost 2 reps for every single one of everybody else's.
Well, and you can't just say, oh, well, it's just short range of motion for him, so he has an advantage. He's good. He's fast. He's a lot of strength in there, a lot of power.
Matt Fraser has gotten onto the bar for his 5th and final set of pull-ups, as Josh Bridges has put a little bit of distance between himself and Fraser.
This could be a painful final mile for these two gentlemen, and I think the smart thing is that Matt Fraser's been taking little sips of water, making sure that he's there, and I haven't seen that from Bridges anytime the camera's been on him, so I don't know.
But Josh has been in the shade the entire time.
It's true.
The entire time, so he's going to finish going out into the run. That'll be the first time he'll see the sun. Well, the first time out of the field that he'll see the sun.
Bridges is your leader. He's on the left. Matt Fraser on the right. And Fraser's done with his 20 pull-ups, and he'll join Bridges on those push-ups. And that water bottle has stayed with him the entire event. Matt Fraser came in with the overall lead, 304 total points. He was 14 points up on Brent Fikowski, and that margin is going to widen significantly if this holds. Ben Smith, meanwhile, the defending fittest man on earth, has moved into 5th place. Smith coming in 10th place overall.
Ben Smith, I'll tell you, a year of training with the title fittest man on earth, the champ. That confidence is huge for Ben Smith. That's huge just to see him come in to regionals. Down the regional, he looked awesome. He was on fire, and I love seeing the confidence. I just think he just gave him that little more push that he needed to really believe in himself that much more.
Well, it's tough. I mean, you want to think okay, do I really deserve that title? I mean, that's a big title to hold, you know, especially when there's been, I mean, virtually one other person who's held it for any kind of length of time. So that's a tough thing to take, but, you know, that confidence is huge, and he's such a mellow athlete, such a quiet athlete, very reserved, very nice. So it's going to be a little fire underneath.
Well, that's why I didn't know how he would handle it. Anytime he gets a you know, a win, it's always like, oh yeah, thanks. You know, and so I was like, is he going to do the same thing for the title? And so I'm so glad to see how he's embraced it and the confidence he's bringing to this year's games.
Josh Bridges on his final set of 60 air squats, and then it's back onto the 1 mile run. Meanwhile, Noah Olson is pushing Matt Fraser for second place. His start was not a good one, but his last two events have gone extremely well. Josh Bridges is done, and he is on to his second and final 1 mile run. And now both Fraser and Olson are virtually tied for second. Fraser has a handful of reps in the bag ahead of Olson. Josh Bridges adjusting his vest. And you mentioned this, Bill, if that thing isn't sitting on you right, it's going to have an adverse effect on your breathing.
Yeah, and you don't want it bouncing around. You want to have it loose enough to where you can breathe, but not so that it's jostling all over the place. You want it to become one part of you, just so you can keep that stride and keep that tempo.
Bridges up the stairs, and then he will exit the soccer stadium on that 1 mile loop. And he looks like he is well on his way towards his 8th career event win at the CrossFit Games.
With Fraser and Olson right behind him, you know, they didn't have Bridges last year. They didn't have him there to push against. So this is huge. You know, Bridges didn't know what it felt like here in the stadium to do this, but he's getting that opportunity now, and it looks like he's going to be able to celebrate the win.
There goes Matt Fraser off on his 1 mile run to close out the event. And he's trying to chase down that man, but the most important thing for Matt Fraser is that other than Josh Bridges, he's ahead of all the guys that are chasing him on the leaderboard. So he's going to widen that lead, especially over Brent Fikowski.
This has to be a very comfortable position for Josh. I mean, again, we talked about rucking and being in the military and having to carry all the packs and having to carry all of that stuff. This is a great, he's at home. He's at home.
The only thing that, you know, could creep in his head was what happened in Aromas, where he was ahead of, by a bigger lead, Fraser, in the beginning of the run, the 7K. But it looks like that lead here from the mile, I don't know if Fraser's going to have enough time to make up that distance.
Noah Olson, the third man on that final 1 mile run. Olson finished third last year in Murph and looking to do it again here in 2016.
I'm impressed. You know, after seeing those squats, I just didn't think he looked very comfortable with his approach, what he was doing with the air squats. He didn't look as comfortable and efficient, but he's a strong kid.
But, okay, Noah isn't very tall. He went with the wider stance. It does shorten up the range of motion. And the other thing he has in his favor is he's from Florida. Florida's extremely hot and humid right now, so this is not a big deal for him, temperature-wise.
This is cool for him.
This is actually really nice.
It is, yeah.
That's the lead that Josh Bridges has on Matt Fraser, and then Noah Olson has yet to even exit the stadium, but he is on that run. And now Jacob Hepner is the fourth man on his final run. And Ben Smith is right behind him with just 1 air squat to go. So Ben Smith, who comes into this event in 10th place overall, just looking to continue to chip away and move his way up the leaderboard. Ben Smith last year 10th in Murph. Scary to think that guy got even fitter.
It's amazing what that CrossFit stuff will do. It's amazing.
Wise athlete. He's out in the shade. He has no shirt on. Definitely lessons were learned last year.
Bjorgvin Carl Gudmundsson is on the run. He's ahead of Smith, and then Alex Anderson behind Ben Smith. Also taking off on their final 1 mile run, that is Jacob Hepner. Jacob Hepner was 5th last year in Murph, so the same guys doing the same stuff here in 2016.
They obviously have practiced this a few times. They know what they're supposed to do. And more than that, they know their body. They know how to handle these events. They know where to push. They don't let the race dictate what they're going to be doing. They do what they do.
But the neat thing here, we said 600 reps is 600 reps, but the neat part is we are seeing the usual suspects. So while you do mix it up, throw a curveball in, a couple different athletes come into the mix, but it still is the fittest in Murph really are still coming out on top.
And Josh Briggs continues to lead, and he is making the turn, and he is on his way back now towards the soccer stadium. And he'll be able to pass everybody that's chasing him as those men make their way out to that turning point.
With Josh, you saw him, he grabbed a water bottle, just took a small sip. He didn't have water all the way up and down the field. And I think this is his experience, his military experience. A lot of these guys, you only have so much water when you're out in the field. So you're not worried about that. You know your body, you know when you're going to need a little sip, when you need to douse. And that's a huge difference where Matt Fraser was dousing himself all the time. Trying to drink as much water, dumping it on his head, dumping it on his shirt.
Josh Briggs just passing Matt Fraser, who's on his way out. Fraser is the man in second place right now. But Josh Briggs is in no hurry. He can take his time. There's no other heat. As long as he stays in front, he's going to win this event and pick up 100 points. Briggs currently 7th place overall.
Hey guys, the pace that these guys have used throughout this event is really impressive. The strategy that they put in play when they found out the rep scheme, especially. You saw last year a lot of guys, especially the ones that finished in the front, run that first mile 6:20, 6:25. This time around, almost everyone came in around the 7 to 7.5 minute mark. So everyone slowed down, taking advantage of the fact that all their pull-ups, push-ups, the squats were broken up. They knew they would be able to go faster here, and it's showing with some very impressive time. We're looking at Briggs coming in potentially as much as 6 minutes ahead of last year's winner.
Thanks, Sam. And last year's winner was the man he just gave a low 5 to. That's Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson, and it's looking like Josh Briggs is going to pick up yet another event win. Encouraging his fellow competitors as they head out on that 1 mile run. Briggs is looking behind him. He's not going to see anything but plants and spectators because Matt Fraser has yet to make the turn. But Josh Briggs has put together a pretty impressive resume during his career. This would be his 8th career event win. And at 33 years old, this guy's still getting better.
He's so, and I don't think that with him it's physically better. It's more mentally sound is what he now has. He's always been a very confident athlete. He's obviously always been a very mentally tough athlete. But now he's kind of coming into this position where it's like he feels he owns events. Not I'm going to do well or I'm going to win. I own this event, and look how calm he is. Now he's just taking in the sights. He high-fives so many people, and granted, it's always nice when you're beating everybody. It's always easy to be in a good mood and feel great. But he has been on a mission since last year when he didn't make it to the games. We saw him. I talked to him at regionals when he was coming in. Very different demeanor. He's always a bit of a jokester, but very focused on what he needs to do. And I know he wants to put it to the metal here.
Yeah, he does have that switch that he can flip, and then it's go time.
Yeah.
And you do not want to get in that man's way when he is in that mode. Josh Briggs back inside the the soccer stadium.
Another thing too, Josh Briggs is only one of 3 athletes on both the male and the female side that has kids. And as a mom, I understand training and all that being pulled in the different directions. So impressive too to add just another layer to his, to his life.
Matt Fraser trying to hang on to second place. Finished second last year in this event. Looking like it's going to happen again in 2016, and Josh Briggs is going to win this thing going away.
Man, look how relaxed.
That's incredible
relaxed he
fitness.
is.
That is incredible fitness right there,
He's
Josh
like out for a
Bridges.
jog, right? He's just out for a jog.
That's a fun one.
Josh Bridges, we're used to seeing him smash events in the tennis stadium. That is his playground. And he's going to pick up yet another win, but this time in the soccer stadium. Josh Bridges, 8th career event win as he takes Murph.
There it is. There's that howl. There's the Josh Bridges howl.
That is 2 minutes faster than Kari Pearce's time on the female side. That is incredible.
34 minutes, 38.83 seconds for Josh Bridges and 100 points. And Matt Fraser is going to widen his lead on the men immediately behind him in second and third place overall. That would be Brent Fikowski, who came in second place. He was 14 points back of Fraser, and Alex Vigneault, who was 64 points back. Matt Fraser, through 5 events, is going to be sitting very pretty on top of the overall leaderboard.
You know, the water for him was key. Not only, obviously his training and what he's done, but he looks great. That water cooled him down. This is a completely different event this year than last year, even though he was second last year.
It's okay. It's just the way they're finishing, and it was the rest of the competition.
Matt Fraser hearing it from the crowd as he will finish in second place. And this is the unbelievable thing for me as Noah Olsen sits in third place. He's back inside the soccer stadium. But Matt Fraser, in the longest events that we've seen so far in the games, has barely looked winded.
Yeah.
I know.
He's gaining the title of endurance athlete, which I think is a little odd. It's a little strange for him. He does not look like an endurance athlete, but man.
It's that, some of that's just the built-in that you don't always, if he's always just gone with the barbell, that's just what you look at. But the natural talent, what he's always probably had there and just didn't tap into, and he is now. So I'm so impressed, though, with Murph in general. Overall, men's side, women's side, these athletes, how they're finishing with pep in their step. They are going to go into the rest of today, tomorrow, in a much different condition than they did last year. I love this. Love seeing the improvement in their fitness.
Noah Olsen is going to empty the tank and sprint his way across the finish line, and he will finish third for the second straight year in Murph.
That's over 2 minutes faster than his time was last year.
And here comes Jacob Hebner, and Hebner, another man who did well last year. Hebner's going to improve on his finish from 2015. He was 6th last year. He will be 4th in 2016.
Like I said, Tanya, same characters. We're only missing one so far that I haven't seen come in with Carl Van Gubben. There he is.
And
Man,
there's Carl Gubbenson.
It's like the same old party. It's like a reunion.
Dave, you want us to do it again? All right.
It is amazing. You throw a challenge at these guys and you have them do it a year later. The improvement overall from everybody is almost unbelievable.
It's insane.
But there's something more that you get from a competition. They got more fit here.
Rob Forte has just passed Ben Smith. And this is now where points become extremely valuable. And it's going to be a race to the finish line between Rob Forte and Ben Smith. And Ben Smith, where did that come from?
Whoa! Turn on the jets.
Ben Smith blowing by Rob Forte.
That's smart right there. That was smart. He let Rob hang out to see what kind of tempo.
That's
hang back, turn it on.
8 years of competing at the games right there. You don't let any places get away from you.
Ben Smith will finish 6th. Rob Forte will finish 7th. And if this thing gets really close on Sunday, remember that.
We'll be talking about it.
7 men have completed Murph. No one did it faster than Josh Bridges. 34 minutes, 38.83 seconds. There's a 55-minute time cap. Alex Anderson and Patrick Velder is in right behind Alex Anderson. So the man we have yet to see was the man who sat in second place overall coming into this event, and that is Brent Fikowski. He only trailed Matt Fraser by 14 points. That is certainly going to change after this. There's Ben Stoneberg. As Scott Panchik comes across the finish line. Panchik 14th in 2015. He'll finish 10th in 2016 with a time of 39 minutes, 18.62 seconds. And now Ben Stoneberg is across the finish line. Jacob Anderson, the second Anderson brother to get across the finish line. Anderson will be 12th. Stoneberg finished 11th. And that is Christian Lucero, the game's rookie from the California Regional. Great result for him. Now more men entering the soccer stadium here as they are closing out events number 5, Murph, and that is Brent Fikowski, who is still on the run. So Brent is going to plummet down the leaderboard. Now it's just a matter of how far. He's got to start passing some people and do some damage control here.
And this just shocks me. Of anyone that I thought was going to really push the pace and that I was excited to see on Murph was going to be Brent. Especially after how he did in the 7K run and the other events yesterday. I just was really, I was waiting to see him get a little crazy. And they call him the professor because he's a very meticulous, very, kind of scientific pacer. Maybe something's going on right now. Maybe this is, I wouldn't have thought he would have paced this hard.
Or maybe it's he's a rookie and this is the third day, and so it is a little bit of a different push that you don't always get at home. Push-ups probably seem to beat him up a little bit more than it did the other guys, and so maybe the pacing was a bit off.
Well, he is a longer athlete as well. So we talk about Josh Bridges and the short levers. He's got the longer levers. So of course those gymnastic movements are going to take longer. But I was expecting to see a little bit more on the run from him.
It'll be interesting to see if he's surprised with his performance, or if this, sometimes we're more shocked than the athletes are. They're like, no, where I thought I was going to be, that was the plan. I knew I could really damage myself if I went too hard in it.
More men have finished, meanwhile, as Brent Fikowski is trying to pass Con Porter and pick up a couple more points here. Logan Collins, Adrian Woundweiler, Cole Sager, Travis Williams, Gary Helmick, Samuel Kwan, and Albert Dominique LaRouche all getting across the finish line. Now 22 men have finished this event. And Marcus Philly is getting set to come across the finish line as Brent Fikowski has passed Con Porter, making his way back into the soccer stadium.
I mean, he looks great on the run here. He doesn't look fatigued. We didn't get a chance to see him too much while he was on the field, but I'm going to say it was a range of motion issue.
And remember, this is a guy in Brent Fikowski who was in the medical tent after the first event in Aromas. So he had his issues, but looked like he dealt with them just fine, but maybe some lingering effects from what he felt after that 7K trail run. .43 minutes about gone in this event. Brent Fikowski now in damage control mode as 26 men have come across the finish line. Zach Carcetti, the latest. He finished in 26th place with a time of 42 minutes, 57.86 seconds. Marcus Philly, Lucas Hogberg, and Roy Gamboa also across the finish line. And Brent Fikowski sparing a look over his shoulders to see who's near him.
And one of the things that we don't really talk about are the events that aren't listed. And the event of that is dealing with this overall week. Dealing with that first day, the traveling that they had to do. And that's going to dishevel. I mean, if you're an athlete that's very, very regimented, you have your certain ways that you warm up, your certain ways to prepare, and then all of a sudden that gets swapped around. Some athletes aren't able to handle that very well. I would say that the more meticulous athletes are the more calculated athletes are the ones that are going to have more issues with that. Where you take someone like Josh Bridges, who that was his entire career, was being jostled all over the world, and then having to be able to respond.
Garrett Fisher getting set to come across the finish line, and this is a guy that we haven't seen in the games since he was a rookie in 2013. and finished 5th. Fisher will finish 30th in this event with a time of 44 minutes 10.77 seconds. Zeke Grove, a Games rookie, is in. And now just a handful of men out on the course. Sam Dancer among them, the man who cleared the deadlift ladder. That's Rasmus Weisbeck Anderson. 31 men across the finish line. Lucas Parker just making the turn on that second 1 mile run. And you want to talk about meticulous athletes. Of all the people that got their vests fitted, he took the longest.
He's a calculated athlete. He's what you're talking about, with everything's calculated out. I wondered how he dealt with, a lot of the athletes not knowing they were going to obviously go to a Romis, but they were going to wake up that early, and they're saying, oh, maybe I should have eaten more Tuesday. They maybe weren't prepped as much for the long duration. That it's not about that day, oh, shoot, I have to quick eat more right now. It's what you did yesterday. Right. And when you're not prepared for it, does that throw you off, and how much does it throw you off?
And he's on record has said, I like training more than I like competing, because in training I can play with the different fundamentals and try to make this work and that work. And the calculation is just incredible. Then you actually get into competition, and then you have to kind of put it all to work, and that's where he's always kind of had an issue.
Sean Sweeney with a tip of the cap to the crowd here as he finishes his trademark cowboy hat. Former rodeo competitor. He's making his first appearance at the CrossFit Games. Sweeney coming in 33rd place with a time of 45 minutes, 53.16 seconds. As Lucas Parker continues to work his way back to the soccer stadium. It's only 7 men left on the run. Lucas Parker, Sam Dancer, James Newberry, Spencer Hendel, Mitchell Cinnamon, Joseph Gessner still on the course here.
Lucas is about right where he was last year. So we saw a lot of the same people were up at the front. A lot of the same people are down at the back.
That is Mitchell Cinnamon. His final descent down the stairs and onto the field here. And remember, this is just one event. There are plenty more events to go. We don't know how many. But last year we certainly saw some athletes who did not do well in this event make up points later on in the competition and wind up on the podium.
Well, that's one of the nice things about this test with the CrossFit Games is you aren't going to show that you aren't fit because you didn't do very well in one thing. We want to look at a very broad spectrum, and that's what's happening here. They are getting an extremely broad spectrum of events and tests.
And when you have an opportunity to get 100 points, when you have an opportunity to be at the top and where others aren't on the leaderboard, that's when you want to take them. And that group today that did it last year, they did it again in this one. There's not many people that like Murph and that can do that at that level.
Here comes Lucas Parker, one of the most recognizable athletes in this entire sport. And he better be careful, because James Newberry looking like he's going to chase down Parker, but Parker realized it. Newberry closing the gap, but Parker's going to get there first.
Good attempt. Wow.
He'll finish 35th, and Newberry will finish 36th. And Lucas Parker not expecting that. The two men congratulate each other as they push one another to the finish line. Here comes Spencer Hendel, who's coming off a career best 5th place finish at the CrossFit Games last year.
Biggest guy in the field, tallest guy, heaviest. This isn't an event for him that is going to, no advantage really there for him.
Yeah, there's no shock that 2 of the 3 guys left on the floor, the two biggest guys. That's Spencer Hendel and Sam Dancer. Joseph Gessner is the other man who has yet to complete his final 1 mile run. And we have just about 6 minutes to go now before we hit that 55-minute time cap.
I talked to Spencer yesterday a little bit, it's cool seeing someone like that that's been around and has seen all the different venues. He was really excited to go back to Aromas, and the fact that he is, like, he doesn't get flustered by stuff. So even though he didn't finish very well here, you know that he's not flustered by it.
He didn't finish very well on the leaderboard, but I'd take a 1-minute PR in Murph.
Absolutely.
Over last year, that was
Absolutely.
a 1-minute PR. Yes, it was partitioned differently, but still in competition, given the third day of competition at the games. Hey, that's awesome.
Sam Dancer lugging that huge frame down the steps.
What do his legs feel like right now?
Sam Dancer, 5'10", 210 pounds. Former football player at Western Illinois University, played fullback.
Yeah, I believe that.
I would hate to see that guy in full pads running at me at full speed trying to knock me over. I'd curl up into the fetal position and probably cry. Sam Dancer is quite the character. And he's a guy who is known more for his power than events like this. He was the only man to clear the deadlift ladder in the 2009 throwback event at the ranch when he deadlifted 615 pounds.
Put a slight bend in the bar.
Sam Dancer hearing it from the crowd. He is in. And now it's just Joseph Gessner who is left out there on his run. Dancer a time of 50 minutes, 38.82 seconds. And that is Joseph Gessner. And he will get himself across the finish line inside the time cap. And that is going to close out the 2016 version of Murph for the men. Played out pretty much like it did last year atop the results. But the man who sat at the very top did this for the first time, and that's Josh Briggs, who takes the event with a time of 34 minutes, 38.83 seconds for the second straight year. Matt Fraser finishes second in Murph. He was a full minute behind Briggs, and then Noah Olson, once again, second straight year, third in 2015, third in 2016.
Man, look at that just insane pace out of the gate. And that actually made me a little nervous. I didn't know what these guys were going to do, but man, Jacob Anderson hopped up into the front. Not too crazy. Really wanted to get to those movements, but then when we got to the movements, the push-ups, the pull-ups, the air squats, then it was all about range of motion. And here's one of our shorter athletes showing not only the range of motion and the power that he has, but the speed that he had in every single one of those, movements. Right after him, Matt Fraser, same type of deal, but was very smart this year compared to last year, dousing himself with water, drinking water all the time, having all that water with him all the time. But Josh Briggs dominated this event, was confident, was comfortable, no issue. I mean, in a point to where he could high-five the entire field on the way back. Didn't look flustered, didn't look stressed by any fashion of imagination at all. Just so powerful in this event, dominated it.
And Josh Briggs with his trademark celebration as he crosses the finish line and picks up his 8th career event win at the CrossFit Games. Let's send it down to Sam Farmer, who's with your event winner.
After last year having to let Glorious Howell.
Yeah, really good. I definitely wanted to do well. So, yeah, I just gave it everything I got, and it felt really good to get a victory.
And certainly as a Navy SEAL, you know the history of Murph. To win it in this environment, how much more does this event mean to you?
It meant a lot, you know. I definitely gave my all, plus a little extra at the top end. Just, you know, I didn't really want to let anybody else win it, so it felt good to get the victory.
Certainly took care of that. Josh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Josh Briggs takes the 2016 version of Murph. Matt Fraser beat him by more than a minute on the trail run. Josh Briggs returns the favor here. Noah Olson for the second straight year will finish third. Jacob Hepner and Bjorgvin Carl Gudmundsson rounding out the top 5. Travis Mayer, the man who went out front early in that initial 1-mile run, finishes in 15th. Brent Fikowski, who was second overall coming into this event, finishes in 28th place. he'll fall down the leaderboard, and then it was the big guys bringing up the rear, and Spencer Hendel and Sam Dancer, 37th and 38th. That's going to do it for event number 5 for the individuals, the men and the women revisiting Murph, and it goes much better for everybody. Kari Pearce gets the win for the women. Josh Bridges gets the victory for the men. And a lot of happy faces as they got through this thing unscathed. Our coverage continues here. Stay with us. Team events 3 and 4 are up next here at the StubHub Center in Carson, California.
Hello, everybody. I'm Pat Sherwood. Welcome to the 2016 Reebok CrossFit Games here at the StubHub Center in Carson, California. We are in our 10th year of our young sport, and the athletes have already completed 5 events. The men and women have done Murph already this morning. Joined at the desk, as always, by Katie Motter-Henniger, the 2008 champion, and Tommy Marquez, analyst extraordinaire. 5 events down already thus far. Kind of what's jumped out to you?
I just think what a way to start off this morning, right? You know, I think Kari Pearce starting out the morning with a great win here, but, you know, Jen Smith really just struggling to get through this, but what an inspiring performance from her to start off the morning here on day 3.
I like what you said there. Looking at Murph as a whole, it's a new year, a new test with a Murph variation, and I think the athletes really stepped up to the plate. We saw them not getting caught off guard strategy-wise, bringing towels out for the push-ups, watching their watches to kind of time their squats, and I think it was evidenced by how well they performed.
And even though they've done Murph, the athletes are not finished today by a long shot. They still have several events in store for them. The next one coming up will be, they just finished Murph, 7 to 9 a.m. this morning at the soccer stadium. Teams have an event, team event number 3 going on from 10:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then finally after that, the individuals will head over to the tennis stadium starting at 3:35 p.m. for event number 6, the squat clean pyramid. Still some things unknown, far more unknown than we do know, but thus far, what's kind of grabbing your attention?
Well, if you go to the games page and you click on the events and workouts description, there's a TBA just below the squat clean pyramid. I'm excited for that. We talk about the atmosphere under the StubHub lights in the tennis stadium year after year. If this is the last year here, then whatever's coming under that TBA has got to be exciting.
Yeah, and I think I echo Tommy with the tennis stadium is always exciting, and I'm really excited for the clean ladder. I think the athletes haven't touched a heavy barbell yet in a sprint fashion. I think it's always exciting to watch. I know the athletes are excited to get to that, so that's what I'm looking forward to today.
A lot of monkey wrenches from Dave Castro. I can't believe we're so far in and still no barbell down yet, but Murph, not a barbell in sight there, went down this morning. When it was all said and done, the women's leaderboard shook out like this. We've got Kari Pearce with her first event win ever at a CrossFit Games, followed by some big names. David's daughter, Caroline Matthews, shook up her region. Samantha Briggs, so glad she made it to the party. Cara Webb moving herself back up. But it was Miranda Oldroyd who caught up with the winner, Kari Pearce.
Kari, you got to do Murph again. Last year you were 5th place. Today, 1st place. What was the difference? How did it feel out there?
It felt a lot better this year than it did last year. My coach made me do Murph last week, with part of it with a 35-pound sandbag, some of the push-ups and squats, and in New York City in the middle of the day in 90-degree weather, going upstairs and around crowded people and stuff. So I knew if I did that, this wouldn't be as bad as last year. So it was definitely better. It was nice to break up the reps physically as well as mentally, because it gave you smaller chunks to look at throughout the workout.
Now, obviously, you did well in it last year, so you were probably somewhat excited to see it come up again when they told you were doing it again. What were your thoughts about that?
I was excited to do it again this year. I figured he would have us do it a different way. I wasn't sure if it would be partitioning, or, I mean, a lot of people threw out maybe different movements like chest to bar, handstand push-ups, some sort of that variation. But I like the way that it ended up, and obviously it worked out well for me.
Congratulations to Kari Pearce. I mean, Katie, what do you make of that? Somebody not named Samantha Briggs wins Murph.
Well, I think it's her second games appearance. You know, I think she came out here confident. She was 17th in the trail run to start off the week here, but I think with the confidence this gives her, I think it sets her up well for the weekend.
And she wasn't the only one that did herself some favors. Tommy, who else really helped their position?
Well, for me, it's got to be the 2015 champ, Katrin David's daughter. She came into this event in 10th place. Being in the top 10 is great, but a whole heap of expectations on her. Stepping up to the plate to finish second in this event overall. I don't think a lot of people would have necessarily picked Katrin to finish second in this workout. But you know what? She's a great runner. She showed up looking leaner. A great performance moves her up into 5th, and now she's within striking distance of the podium.
She has turned herself into one heck of a runner based upon what we saw at the ranch as well, but not everyone had potentially the performance that they wanted to. Who didn't do themselves any favors?
I think it's another former champ. I think Annie Thorsdottir finished 24th here. She was 23rd in the swim. I thought she would do better. But with that said, last year she finished 33rd here, didn't make the cap. She struggled afterwards. And I think mentally and physically she's in a much better place this year. I think she needs this next event to boost her confidence a little bit and move forward with the weekend.
And not just the women got to enjoy Murph this morning. The men also did it as well when the dust finally settled for them. Here's what the leaderboard looked like. Josh Bridges making his comeback appearance to the games. Last year when Murph happened, you know, he basically said that he was furious that, you know, an American didn't win. We'll get to those results there in a second, but he rectified that this year with his first place finish in 34 minutes and 38 seconds, only individual sub 35. Then Matt Fraser, again, he is on fire thus far. Ben Smith doing himself some favors, jumping back up there in the leaderboard. Scott Panchik decided to get in there as well. But Miranda Oldroyd, Josh Bridges, let's get back to him for a second. He is operating with some sort of fire that we haven't seen from an athlete in a while. Why is that?
You know what? He has always carried that relative intensity for him compared to the other athletes. But you know what? His past life, you know, he did have that kind of military background, so I think this workout meant something more to him than some of the other athletes. But missing a year kind of really lit a fire under his belly, and I think he kind of answered the critics at regionals with the snatch ladder, and now to come back in a workout in Murph that a lot of people would expect him to win, just to kind of actually live that out and blow the field away. When you have someone like Matt Fraser that's on your heels, a guy who finished second in Murph last year, you know that's no easy task for him. So he came out strong from the get-go, putting himself in front during the body weight portion of this workout, and it just shows us why everyone loves Josh Bridges as an athlete, because he carries that fire, and when he comes across the finish line, you're going to get a great celebration.
You know, I was watching as he came across the finish line, and he ripped off his vest, and he threw it on the ground. You can't help but get fired up about that. I think everybody just plays off that, and I think it's a great win for Josh.
But the man that he just beat there, Matt Fraser, he, once again, he destroyed his regional, second 2 years in a row. You know, this potentially, is he going to be able to maintain what he's shown us so far?
I think so. I was really surprised on the trail run, the 7K trail run to start off the week. I was really surprised with the win there. You know, impressed with the performance here, and I think this is just going to jumpstart him once we get to the heavy barbells.
We've got a great competition so far, but it was Josh Bridges that won Murph, and Miranda Oldroyd caught up with him when it was all said and done.
Josh Bridges, I don't think too many people are going to be surprised that you did so well in that event. How was it to do Murph this year when you missed out on doing it last year?
Yeah, it was really cool. I'm glad they brought it back. You know, I like the partition or unpartitioned one a little better. I think it's just more challenging, and it can really grind into some dudes. But this was good. It was fun. You know, and it's in honor of someone, so you always got to put out. And I didn't really want to let anyone else win, so it felt good.
Doing really well so far. How would you describe the tests up to this point?
They're all really fun. Going to Aromas was really cool experience for me. I've never been up there, so getting to do the hill run deadlift workout again, that was really cool. And then the med ball one with the sprint at the top, that was really fun. The swim was, good. I wish I would have done a little better, but they've all been really fun so far. Excited to do some barbell work, maybe some more stuff at the stadium, stuff like that. That'll be really cool too. So far it's been kind of like, maybe not so much CrossFit as opposed to like just, I don't know, odd object or weird stuff, or I don't know, more athletic type of stuff. So it'll be fun to do some CrossFit, and not that that's not CrossFit, but you know what I mean, organic CrossFit, I guess.
Totally. We have the clean event later today and then a bunch of events that are still unknown. What is your goal for that event for the weekend overall?
Every event, obviously, you want to go in and get a win. The clean event's going to be really fun. I'm excited for it. I like cleaning. The weights I don't have to hit a PR like I did in regionals, so I'm excited about that. So it'll be good. I like to do a little more of, I guess, strength endurance type stuff. So the clean workout, I'm excited for. I'm not like worried like, oh, it's a heavy workout, so I don't know if I'll do well. But so I think I will do well, and I hope to do well.
All right. Well, we'll let you go get cleaned up. Thank you, Josh.
That very next workout is going to be very telling for Josh Bridges. You heard him say it himself. He definitely prefers those grinders to the heavy barbells. Obviously, Josh did himself some favors, but who else did as well?
I think Noah Olson did himself a favor here in this event. He didn't start out the week very well. He went 32nd and 23rd, but he's since gone a 6th place finish, an 8th place finish, and then 3rd here. Sets himself up well. I think he'll do very well on the clean ladder today.
I think you're right on that as well. Now, somebody that you don't think did so well, I still have some high hopes for. Who's that?
Yeah, Brent Fikowski. I actually thought he would do much better in Murph than he did. He took 28th place overall in that workout, and really he came in from the get-go kind of lagging back on the run. I thought he was just kind of playing coy and was going to kind of make a move on the body weight movements, but necessarily didn't do that. And with looking forward to what we have next in a heavy barbell, I know that's given him trouble in the past, and he's worked on that. But relative to your peers at the games, you have yet to show us that he can handle that heavy barbell in an elite manner. So he's got some question marks coming into tonight, even though he was in second coming in.
All right, he is fired up and ready to show that he's not a fluke. He made it here. He earned his spot. After 5 events, the men's leaderboard shifting a little bit, but not too much. Matt Fraser, the man in charge with 398 points. Bridges in second place, and there's Fikowski still in the top 3. And I see a Goodmanson. I see you in 4th place. You're not going to catch me off guard, but I'm incredibly impressed. Yesterday, Ben Smith was not in the top 10, and now quietly making his way back into 5th place. But that's what jumps out at me. But what surprises you two?
For me, it's Alex Anderson. He's been steady all weekend. 8th in Murph, 12th in the trail run. Some workouts that most people might not think he's great at. I know, Pat, you talked to him, and he mentioned, hey, I like the heavy barbell, but I'm excited to show off how good of a runner I am. And I think he's done that so far. A guy who finished 13th in his rookie campaign, doesn't draw a lot of fanfare to him necessarily outside of the fact that him and his brothers are one fit family. Right. I think another strong top 10 performance in this workout, heading into a workout that fares well for him in the heavy barbell and the squat clean. He's going to turn some heads this year.
I'm actually surprised with Matt Fraser with how well he's done in both runs and the other events here. But already being in first place, I know he's really driven, he's really ready, and he wants to be on top of that podium this year. And I think it's really scary that he's already sitting in first place going into the tennis stadium today.
Yeah, and haven't touched a barbell yet. And that is exactly what is in store for these athletes next. They will be up against event number 6. The squat clean pyramid, kind of reminiscent of what we did at regionals with that snatch ladder. We've got the reps going 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, and the weights only get heavier time and time again. This is going to be an event that I think not only everyone in the stadium is going to enjoy, but I know the athletes are going to eat it up. But Tommy, who can really crush this thing?
I mean, it's got to be Matt Fraser. He's in first place. We're going to a heavy barbell workout. That's his forte. He was an Olympic lifter. We've had 3 single modality workouts so far, and he's still 78 points, 68 points ahead of second. I think this workout in particular, with how well he performed in the format of this pyramid that we saw with the snatch at regionals, coupled with the fact that he's done well, and every time we've had a heavy barbell at the games, this is the equivalent of a belt-high fastball at 80 miles an hour. He's going to absolutely knock this one out of the park and extend his lead on the rest of the pack going into the evening.
I agree with you. I think he will do well, but who needs to do well?
Who needs to do well? I just talked about him, Ben Smith. He really helped himself out in Murph. He was 10th going into that. He's now in 5th place. I really look for him to push Matt in this next event. You know, he's very consistent. He doesn't have lows. He doesn't have highs. So I look for him to go out there. Obviously, he's got to be excited about this next workout, and I think he's going to move up from where he's at.
Both of them so talented with the barbell. Fraser so emotional, and just Ben Smith so cool, calm, and collected. But the man on top right now is Matt Fraser, and Miranda Oldroyd caught up with him.
Matt Fraser looking very tough to beat. I think people maybe are a little bit surprised about what happened at the ranch. At least I was on the 7K. Now with Murph, you did well in that last year. How are you feeling on this first day here at the StubHub Center?
I feel great. Feel fresh. So just looking to keep chugging through the weekend.
You've made it very clear that you're here to win the CrossFit Games. How are you feeling about that right now, and what do you feel like you need to do for the rest of the day and the rest of the weekend?
Yeah, of course I'm here to win. Even if that workout didn't go well, still here to win. Just going to stick to my own game, not worry about what other people are doing, and just try to finish strong.
Is this fun for you, or is it all business?
I guess I'm lucky enough that it's both. I'm here serious, but also having a good time.
Awesome. Well, I know you're trying to get out of the sun and rest up before later. We can't wait to see you on the clean event. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
I mean, everybody here earned their spot. Everybody here is a ridiculous animal of fitness, but there's a couple people that have that special something, that it factor is tough to define. But what is it about Matt Fraser that makes him just such a dangerous athlete?
Well, I think he just mentioned it right there. It's a little bit of fun and a little bit of business with him. Normally, you're not supposed to mix business with pleasure, but he does so, and he's doing so beautifully. It's a little bit of deja vu to last year. He finishes second in the Murph event, heads into the tennis stadium in first place, all the momentum in the world, except I think the difference is this year it looks like I don't see anything that's going to trip him up. So I'm just excited to see how that's going to play out into the next event and whatever's coming after that.
I mean, if it's even possible, he looks more focused and more driven
Right.
this year, and just eyes on the prize, ready to go. And I think if he can continue that, like Tommy said, he's really worked on his weaknesses. I think it's scary for the rest of the weekend.
Well, Matt Fraser has put himself in a wonderful position, and so has Samantha Briggs. After these events, she finds herself on top of the leaderboard, 378 points. She almost didn't make it to the games, and now she's in first place. Tia Toomey, once again, second. I'm super impressed by her. But quite frankly, I think one of the big stories is Tanel Reed sitting there in third place. I don't think any of us coming into the games would have thought that would be the case. But Sam Briggs is your winner, and Miranda Oldroyd got caught up with her after Murph.
Sam Briggs, you're not even technically supposed to be here, I guess. Found out just days before that you were going to be able to make it, and now you're doing so well after a few days of competition. How does it feel to be here right now?
Pretty awesome. I think the first day was still kind of like a dream. Is it real? Am I actually here? Especially because it was so different being flown to the ranch. It was kind of like, am I really here? Is this just like some kind of surreal dream that's going on? But no, it feels good, especially being back at the StubHub now. First like real day of competition. So
you're looking very strong right now. We have the next event coming up, which is the clean event, and I know that might not be your favorite. How are you going to get through it? What are your thoughts going into that event?
Hey, cleans are better for me than snatches, so let's see how it goes. I have actually cleaned the last bar, so anything is possible. So let's see if I can at least get past the second bar, which is all I got on the snatches. So if I get onto the third bar in this, I'll be happy.
I think if anybody can show that anything is possible this weekend so far, it's you, because you're here and you're doing so great. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
And just to be clear for our viewers at home, Samantha Briggs is your overall leader after 5 events. She did not win Murph. In the lead right now, things change all the time. Is she someone who could still be in contention when we're wrapping this thing up on Sunday?
I think so. I think coming into the weekend, you look at how she got here in the first place, no acclimation, has to deal with jet lag, the stress of the entire visa situation weighing down on her, and you know what? She just steps up to the plate, wins the first event, and is now in first place. I'm not going to put anything past her now because what she's doing is the making of a CrossFit legend.
Yeah, and I just, she is a veteran. I think she's got her head about her, even with all the circumstances getting here. I really think she is going to be in contention. I think, like we talked about, focus and drive from Matt Fraser. I think Sam Briggs has that as well, and I think it sets her up well for the rest of the weekend.
And she said she could do the last barbell, so, that's going to be dangerous for people if she can pull that off. Who needs to do well on this upcoming event?
Lauren Fisher needs to do well on this upcoming event for the females, and I think she missed the games last year. She was 11th going into Murph. She didn't help herself there. She's down to 15th. I think she'll come out. She'll have a lot of fire in her belly, and I think she's going to do really well on this clean ladder.
She is one of those athletes, I agree, that will perform on that, but some women are not in the position right now that they want to be, so who's in a fight for the life needs to make some money on event number 6?
It's tough to say that Cara Webb's in a position that she doesn't want to be because she's inside the top 10, but I think this is a real opportunity for her to make a push up into the top 5, maybe even get to the top 3. You look at the movement she's going to have to do, the squat clean. In 16.2, she had the best overall finished worldwide, showed us she can handle the heavy squat clean. Then you look at the format. Well, she had the event record in the snatch pyramid at regionals, so no problem with the format. She's over 100 points back from Sam Briggs, 102 to be exact, so she needs an event win to kind of put her back in that conversation, and I think that's what she's going to get.
The individuals are going to get a small reprieve, a little bit of a break. The teams are kind of come onto the field right now, in a little bit. They have 2 events under their belt so far, and surprise, surprise, CrossFit Mayhem Freedom in first place, 280 points, followed by Yas. We chatted a lot as the games was leading up. 12 Labor's Lions and Diablo, who smashed their regional as well, so far being strong. But can Mayhem do it once again and just lead this thing wire to wire? Tommy, what do you think?
I think so. I think it's pretty scary with the fact that outside of CrossFit Yas, who's 10 points back, the third place finisher is 70 points back, and we're only a couple events in. I look at this workout, deadlifts, burpees, handstand walk, nothing that's going to trip up this Mayhem team. So I think it's a situation where last year they kind of snuck into that first place position at the end. I don't think they're going to let go.
I was watching the first workout, Murph, the other night, and they came in middle of the pack when they came into the stadium, and I happened to move down toward the track here. And the next thing I know, they're out 2 or 3 minutes ahead of the next team. And I thought, holy cow, this is scary for the weekend if they're starting out the week like this. I think they have a lot of confidence. No one works out more than these guys. I mean, the volume they're putting up. So I think they've set themselves up well. They're very confident. I think they may go wire to wire.
And they're a veteran team. We know they have the goods. But some teams show up with potentially a lot of hype and don't live up. But thus far, that's not the case for Yas.
Yeah, they certainly have. They're the only team within striking distance of Mayhem right now, just 10 points back. They have the individual Open winner in Jamie Green on the women's side. They were first place overall in the Open as a team. They didn't win their region, but you know what? What really matters in the end is showing up at the games, and they're doing that so far.
Yeah, and I think, they're all rookies, so we'll see how this plays out. Mayhem, a bunch of veterans here and a bunch of rookies. We'll see who's going to stay consistent at the end and who's going to keep it together.
Coming up next for the teams is the event we're calling the Triple-Double, and it looks like there's a lot going on right there. It's going to be male and female pairs. They got some work to do on the ski erg, followed by some double unders, then synchronized squat snatches, 145 for the men, 95 for the women. Moving on to Station 2, some GHD med ball tosses, synchronized sit-ups, bar muscle-ups. We've got calories in the rower, double unders, overhead squats. I mean, this thing just goes on and on and on. But what is it about this particular workout that you think is going to potentially be the sticky point for the teams?
Well, I'm not sure if that event description was correct because I thought we were doing fat bar pull-ups, or deadlifts. But either way, I think that we've added a lot of new elements, whether it's the fat bar on the deadlift or the top med ball GHD toss. I think there's a lot of things that maybe teams haven't practiced this year. So a lot of these new elements could trip up these teams because outside of practicing in the warm-up area or maybe doing some stuff back at their home gym, wherever they're staying, there's not a lot of experience with these types of workouts.
Yeah, let me step in there because that actually was not the correct graphic for everybody at home. We are going to be using a new piece of gear, a fat bar for some deadlifts, which you are intimately familiar with coming from Rogue. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think the fat bar is interesting. It's 13 feet long. It's got a 2-inch diameter on it. Yep, and it's 84 pounds. And I think these teams, they've done double deadlifts on a regular barbell, but this is more like an axle grip. So it's going to be tough for them, and they're going to have 3 people on the bar. So I think communication is definitely key here with timing. So we'll see what comes out. I think they'll be able to handle this well, but it is definitely a new element that they haven't practiced.
And if some of us who didn't get to see the announcement back on Tuesday, the demo team actually did a couple of reps with the fat bar, and you have Paul Tremblay, Austin Malio, 2 great deadlifters. You have Neil Maddox, who's strong as hell, and you know what? They had a tough time doing 5. This is going to be fun to watch play out.
All right, so it was tough for the demo team, who are capable athletes, but what team are you going to be keeping an eye on, Tommy?
I'm going to be watching CrossFit Dynamics. They're a team that had a lot of hype as well, kind of being this super team, all coming from different areas. They're 78 points back of first place right now, so they need a couple of strong performances today to kind of get back into the conversation, not just for the podium, but for the top spot.
Who are you looking?
I think CrossFit Vancouver. It's their 8th consecutive appearance here at the Games. I think they're very consistent. They won it in 2010. They're currently sitting in 8th place. I think their consistency and all the veterans on their team, I think they'll be able to make a push here today.
They're one of those teams we talk about year after year. Of course, there's incredible tests of fitness going on, but we have an amazing event also out there in Venda Village. And for more on that, here's Kayla Banfield.
The CrossFit Games is the best place to see the fittest men and women on the planet. But while you're here, if you're looking for something to do in between events, Venda Village is the place to be.
A lot of things are happening at the Life 810 today. We are actually a part of the scavenger hunt with CrossFit HQ, so we are going to be doing shot ski. So if anybody's interested, you guys can come in and ask for the special ski. We're doing shots of Party Aid.
Get this everywhere. Not too bad.
Not bad at all.
That's delicious.
We'll get you one to go.
I should have taken my top off like her. Dave, tell us what we can expect here at RX Ropes.
Yeah, well, Kayla, this weekend we have the Zeus 200 Challenge, which is trying to do 200 unbroken double unders with the over half-pound Zeus cable. You're just going for unbroken, and there's no time limit. Just got to get them all done without breaking.
And just your opinion, how does the over half-pound rope compare to the normal RX Ropes?
Well, it's phenomenal. It's a great training stimulus. A lot of the top games athletes are training with this regularly so that when you go to your lighter rope, you don't even feel it. So it's awesome.
Can you explain to us what this lady is doing? Because it looks like she's wearing away at her hands, but I'm sure it's got some kind of benefit to it.
Yes, it does. So we're sanding down the calluses on her hands.
Which we all need.
Yes, absolutely.
Megan, tell me what's happening here at InBody.
Hi, so at InBody, basically we're breaking down your body composition into segmental muscle, or how much lean body mass you have in each segment of your body.
So what's the verdict? What is my body fat?
Do we want to say that out loud?
Yeah, go for it.
It's only 16.8. That's like amazing. That's awesome.
Kyle, tell us what's new at the Reebok tent.
We have a couple new features here in the Reebok tent this year. We have moments from the past 10 years. So we have a wall full of all the moments. We're able to customize that for you directly on site.
As you can see, there is lots going on down here at Venda Village, but it's something that you have to experience for yourself. So I'll see you here at Venda Village.
Venda Village, just a magical place of fun. You got to bring the whole family out there. And we are joined at the desk through the magic of television. Allison is here. Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much.
And both you and Tommy are going to be bringing us kind of continuing coverage throughout the day. What's in store?
We're going to be doing a little bit of everything. We are going to be having a blast. We're going to do event recap and previews. We're going to have amazing insight and analysis from this guy over here. We're going to have Kayla covering all over the ground. She'll be at the athlete area. She'll be at the vendor village. We're going to have tons of behind the scenes. We're going to have great guests. Dan Bailey's going to be on later today. And, of course, we're going to let the fans know how they can join us and be part of the conversation.
Really just get the full atmosphere of the CrossFit Games experience. So.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a festival. It's not just the games, it's a festival. That's going to do it right now for us. Get over to Vendor Village. Take advantage of that for gear, food, apparel, everything that you need. We'll be bringing you continuing coverage through Allison and Tommy over the course of the day. And for Katie, I'm Pat Sherwood. Enjoy the games.
Awesome.